meeting of the Camden Select Board. Our meeting is live streamed at YouTube on youtube.com at Town of Camden, Maine. And if you wish to participate remotely, go to the agenda and click on the Zoom link. And if you wish to participate, there will be a way to join the webinar. First order of business is, thank you. Makes it a little easier once I scroll past the first page. Approval of the minutes from our April 7th meeting. Are there any questions, corrections?
I had two minor, well, one has already been caught, but at line 79, I believe that was Nolan seconded Ken's amendment, not me. And I think that
You could catch that, Chriso.
Okay.
And I think that I made the following motion in line 81, not Susan.
Right, that would have been you, not me. Okay, so noted. Any other additions, corrections, deletions?
It's just you made the motion.
Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, excellent. Thank you. So our next item is public hearing for public comment on the June town meeting ballot, and it is specifically an ordinance change regarding coastal hardened armored shoreline stabilization projects, which we talked about briefly at our last meeting, but the specific language is in the packet with some background. Jeremy isn't here. I understand he had an emergency today, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Had an emergency wisdom tooth.
Right, a wisdom tooth removal. Not fun, not a fun day.
So would you like me to go through this
Please.
high level? So this is a proposed moratorium ordinance for hardened or armored shorelines. So this is really working off the piers and other structures. It's a follow-on from that. There was acknowledgement around that time that there are also a number of projects happening around town to harden shorelines where it's not protective of structures. And, there's a number of problems associated with that. So, the wave action, impact on surrounding properties, as well as the damage that the trucking of a lot of that rock to those sites is causing to the roads that aren't designed to carry or for vehicles that are loaded that heavily with stone, and several other different issues that we think that we need to take a closer look at when it comes to these projects. So this really wouldn't apply to any repair of existing projects. It's really just new projects that are happening or proposed. And it would be effective from the date that it was discussed, which is first discussed, which was the April 7th meeting.
So there's a little paragraph here in Jeremy's summation that says, now therefore, for a period of 180 days from the effective date, no town official, board, or department shall accept, process, or act upon any application for the construction, installation, or expansion of hardened and or armored shorelines adjacent to coastal wetlands. This moratorium shall apply to all pending and future applications. Effective date and the date of applicability shall mean April 7, 2026, which is the introduction date of the moratorium discussion by the Select Board. So this is a public hearing, and we can, if there is anyone here who would like to speak for this article or against, we would happily, for this moratorium, yeah, for the article pertaining to the moratorium. we would happily entertain. Certainly. We would entertain any comments now for or against this article. Has anyone come to speak on this? Elliot, please come up.
Hello, Elliot Thompson, Camden resident. Are there any pending applications for this type of work?
I don't know the exact answer. Jeremy would have that information, and because he's not here,
As far as
forget
I
what-
know, there's one application, it's for a repair. So I don't believe that this would impact that because it's an existing
Uh-huh. Okay.
seawall.
And there's actually, he's modified the language that covers anything that would be a repair, which would be permit by rule and therefore would not be. So if it's a repair of an existing structure, and that's the only, I believe, yeah, that last time he said there was only one.
I think that's why he added that
Yeah.
language, which I don't necessarily,
It's in the middle of.
yeah,
a
which
whole
is, I mean, he's
bunch, so-
making an effort to be exceptionally responsive to possible large-scale repair options, which it's fine, but I think that was taken into consideration because we got a little bit of feedback.
That's my sole question. Thank you.
thank you, Elliot.
My name is Stuart Smith. Do we know whether or not this would have any impact on what we're trying to do with the library park? Have we got designs for that yet enough, or is this going to put a moratorium on that?
That work would all fall under the category of living shoreline or a project that decreases rather than increases the impact. But that is a good thing to check on, because if we were doing something like building further out, it could potentially impact that, but it should be just fine.
So where we right now, we already have a granite wall across the whole edge of the transition from the water to the park.
Right,
So I guess I would consider that a pretty
robustly
that-
hardened shoreline
So
already.
that would not, I mean, if we're trying to work with that, how does this moratorium impact the whole design?
So it would be considered that would be considered a nature-based adaptation. So they'll actually be adding in some vegetation and removing a significant amount of the impact in the intertidal zone. So it won't be considered a new, first of all, it won't be considered a new project, which is the major thing that exempts it, is that it is not a new project. It's not taking an unhardened shoreline and adding a seawall where there wasn't one before. This is adapting an existing seawall to be more nature-like and not less.
We're sure.
Believe me, last thing I would want to do is accidentally stop.
Well, and-
But regardless, this is also only 180
Right.
days. And so I feel very confident that the Harbor Park project will not be impacted. But the other thing for any other projects ongoing, it's only 180 days. And so the idea is just to be able to take that time to develop language for the actual ordinance that develops standards like, what we're going to, when seawalls are necessary, what they should look like, how they should blend in with the neighboring properties, things like that. So it's not going to be a forever thing.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking that.
When you speak that way, could you speak into a microphone and articulate a little more clearly?
Yes, we are all,
Yeah.
did everybody hear this?
Yeah.
Everybody that's,
Stuart, just to your point, the language is to provide the actual language in what's on the warrant that we'd be voting on is to provide a necessary pause in the review, permitting, and installation of hardened and/or armored coastal shoreline stabilization to allow the town to update, and then there's the article numbers, to ensure that private shoreline projects do not cause serious irreversible harm to Camden's public natural resources, municipal infrastructure, or the property rights of neighboring landowners. It's pretty specific, but also quite limited for a time period, so for research to be done.
And I think that quite a bit of that research and consideration has been done in the last couple of years. So it's
Yeah.
not like the pier ordinance that we were starting. This is, a lot of that info was done when we were doing the pier ordinances. So it should be a fairly timely process to get it done.
Any other comments?
Just one question.
Mhm.
Ray and Jason, this moratorium and everything, would that affect any repairs that needed, say, the wall at the yacht club collapses? Would it impose a restriction on repairing that?
No.
No.
Any
Which
other
may very well
comments?
happen.
It also allows for anything that is deemed an urgent or
Right, if there's a, a structure that's
emergency
urgently in need of
scenario.
some kind of protection, it has something for that also.
There's- Yeah.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Comments from the board? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve
So moved.
this item?
Second,
All those in favor? Okay, 500. Select board reports. Who's got something to report?
oh, I thought we were moving those to the end of the meeting also.
Oh. It's okay.
I have two little things. One is the harbor cleanup is Saturday at 10. Folks can meet at the town landing and get gear, vests, pickers, all that kind of stuff. And then I just had a little sidebar note that I thought was sort of interesting. We've had a lot of comments about, unity and working together. And I sort of thought it was interesting to take a look. So, because it seemed like a fun thing on a Friday night. Last Friday, I went through our minutes from the last year of meetings and looked at our votes. It's Friday night. What else are you going to do?
Quiet night.
And setting aside like our, victualers licenses and all those discussions, which were almost always unanimous,
Mhm.
I counted that we had like 24 votes on action items, and of those 18 were unanimous, 6 were only 1, and only 3 were a 2-3 split. And not all of those were the same 2 and 3 people. And of those 4-1 votes, almost every one of us had a minority vote somewhere in there. So I just thought it was an interesting thing of showing that sometimes the representation is that we're all at each other, but in actual fact, we generally agree because we're having good conversations and listening. So I thought those were some interesting numbers to share.
That's awesome. Chriso, thank you. Who else? Are you good?
I am good tonight, thank you.
Okay.
No, anything that I have to add from our tours of Lupin Terrace or Greenfields will come up. What I have to say will come up later on.
Okay. Okay. Chris, anything?
I have nothing to report.
Okay.
I imagine Jeff is going to speak to the Tannery Park piece on May 17, right? At 1 p.m.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Great.
And I would just, I had the opportunity to go out with the folks who are studying the possibility of a green burial site. And we walked a part of the Oak Hill property that could lend itself really nicely to green burial. And it was part of it was land that was suggested by the cemetery committee as being what worked best. And we'll see, but it was encouraging and it's actually lovely. It's down below, like further out, outer Mechanic Street from the,
Outer Mechanic
that-
Street,
well,
super
you
outer
know-
Mechanic Street. Hosmer
what do
Pond
we
Road.
call that?
Hosmer
Hosmer
Pond
Pond
Road.
Road, way outer Mechanic Street.
Did you find any vernal pools?
No, there weren't, not on that parcel.
Okay.
There were puddles because there had been a big rain the night before, but nothing that appeared to be a vernal pool. And then the areas that have been gravel pits have been nicely re-vegetated with birch and alders, and the terrain is sort of naturalizing itself. And there were some really lovely areas that folks really seemed to like, the atmosphere, tall trees. And so it was nice to see that there could be some movement forward on that. They've also spoken with the folks at the Water and Soil Conservation, who have a lot of resources in terms of helping assess the soils and making sure that we've got some appropriate usage out there. So that was fun to go out and hopefully move that project along. Okay. Town manager's report.
All right, in the assessing department, a recent ratio study showed that our ratio is slipping a bit. So we're at 87% currently. And just to remind everybody, when our ratio slips to below the 100%, it impacts things such as the homestead exemption and other programs like that.
Just explain what that is, the ratio.
What is the ratio?
Yeah.
The ratio, so the certified ratio, it basically shows how close are we assessing property to market value. And we're off a little bit now. So our ratio was verified for this year at 100%, but we might need to make some adjustments in the coming year to get it back close to that 100%. Our Deputy Assessor Caitlin Thompson attended the first in-person Vision User Summit since the pandemic. So Vision is Camden's assessment software, and it was a productive summit, learned a lot of new skills, and was able to network with other assessors who use Vision as well. The homestead and veterans exemption deadline of April 1st is behind us. So any exemptions that we receive going forward will be held until next spring. The business personal property listing reports are coming in, and the business equipment tax exemption deadline is May 1st. So any businesses out there that need to get their information into the assessing office, please keep in mind the May 1st deadline. Assessing's soon going to be starting property inspections for new construction, additions, renovations. So that's an important part of the assessor's work. Basically, between now and commitment, they're looking at all of the new work that's been done on properties to adjust assessments accordingly. In the town clerk and finance office, the new harbor mooring and float fee program is underway. So mooring and float fees are all due by April 30th. So when registering a boat, please please make sure that you bring a main registration number or serial number, your hull ID for the boat that you would like to register. And there's a link to the Camden Harbor portal that you can find on the town's harbor department page. And as of December 31st, 2025, any voter can request an ongoing absentee ballot. So absentee ballot requesting for, it opens on Thursday, April 9th, and then it closes on June 4th. So this is, like I said, you can do the ongoing, but this would be for the upcoming election in June. So absentee ballot pickup and in-person absentee voting will begin on Friday, May 8th. And the town office closes by noon on Friday. So if you'd like to come in and vote then, please keep that in mind. So the annual town meeting voting and elections that are going to be on June 9th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So in addition to the local warrant, voters are also going to be asked to vote in both the federal and the state primaries for the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives, as well as for governor and the Senate and House of Representatives. So local matters are going to be, will include the school budgets and board of director seats, the FY27 municipal budget, seats on the Camden Select Board, as well as the district attorney, the judge of probate, and the county commissioner and sheriff. So in the town manager's office, as of Monday, we've received 9 applications for the police chief position, and the deadline for applications is this Friday, April 24th. The production of the 2026 town report is underway, so that we have a deadline of April 27th to submit it to the printer. So we're currently collecting individual reports from department heads, as well as financial reports and other information. We have committee members or committee chairs who are also submitting reports. We're looking for cover photos, so that's something to keep in mind. The select board traditionally contributes to selecting who the town report's going to be dedicated to. So, this is something I think the board is working on currently. So just wanted to flag that in case. So the preparation for the start of the 2026 expanded paid parking program on May 22nd has begun. The kiosks have been tested and software is being updated. So residents are already coming in about permits, and tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of permit options. So until then, it's, the same sort of 2-hour parking limits in the downtown area. So Opera House updates. The 39th Annual Camden Conference, which happened in February, was a success. It sold out across all 3 days at the Opera House. The event was also live streamed at the Strand in Rockland and the Lunt Auditorium in Falmouth. They had satellite events going on. And thanks to a healthy community arts fund balance, which is where community members can donate to support programming, we've been booking more free Blue Cafe concerts, including acoustic piano nights, using the new piano that was donated to us, which is a 1941 Steinway. And Blue Cafe shows, if you're interested in attending, are on Wednesday nights, and they're free admission, with thanks to those who support the Community Arts Fund. So Scotland's Tannahill Weavers returned for a great show on March 21st, who have a strong following in the Mid-Coast, and it was very well attended. The Opera House staff helped the West Bay Rotary Club put together a Gordon Bach fundraiser that was held on the 18th and was sold out. And the month of May is all dance. So anybody who's interested in seeing what our local dance companies do, including Camden Ballet Theater, Dance Mania, Kia Dance Center, Camden Ballet Theater, and Atlantic Ballet Company, you can basically come to the Opera House on almost any night in May and see some dancing going on. So Arthur Crockett, he was a beloved custodian and steward of the town office and Opera House for a very long time, and he kept coming back every single time we had a vacancy in the custodial position. And Arthur was, back in Maine from Florida. He would come in and help us out. And unfortunately, he passed away last month at the age of 80. And his memorial service is going to take place in the Opera House on Saturday, May 9th. So we just wanted to acknowledge Arthur because he was a really important part of our staff here and the community here, and he's going to be missed by everyone. So the fire department, the fire chief and interim police chief met with the architect Joe Rosillo a couple of weeks ago, and they're focusing on how to collaboratively repurpose the space in the public safety building so they can accommodate the needs of both departments. So the focus is going to be on a single floor renovation instead of a second story addition. And, it's really based around how can more of that space be shared, while also making sure that there are certain spaces dedicated to certain functions of each department that need to be private or have additional levels of security. So in the harbor department, the bulk of the seasonal mooring inspections are complete. So mooring reassignments are heavily underway, and the 3 inner harbor floats that were given up this year, along with 1 finger float, they're working to reassign those. So this is a little bit more than they usually have in terms of turnover, but that's great news for folks who have been on the waiting list for a long time. So there's about 40 people on the wait list for an inner harbor float, which is approximately an 11-year wait. And for a mooring, it's about a 2 to 4 year wait, depending on the size of the boat. We had to remove and dispose of a number of derelict floats they were taken out because of the blue styrofoam, and they were dropped off by someone and left in the Cove Road parking lot. So the space has been cleared out, and we've been able to reclaim that for parking that'll help with the steamboat landing facility. Summer reservations for overnight dockage are also looking really strong at the harbor, and that's all we have.
That's a lot. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. Next item is the season end presentation about the Snow Bowl, our 2025-26 season. Jeff Nathan.
Probably. Yeah, it's not fitting there.
If it's easier, I can just, yeah.
Good evening, Jeff Nathan. I'll start with the Parks and Recreation Director for this first public service announcement, and then we'll move over to the Camden Snow Bowl General Manager job. Chris mentioned the May 17th at Tannery Park. For everybody's awareness, there is a community planning workshop at the Tannery Park that day. It's prompted by a member of the community who's very interested in really gathering ideas from the community about, what to do with that space and how to do it, and make sure that we have lots of public input on it. So Blake Sanborn of Richardson and Associates will be there and sort of facilitate it. We'll have representation from Parks and Recreation as well as some community members. It'll be held in Tannery Park at 1:00 on the 17th. It's a Sunday. And if it is pouring rain, we'll be meeting at the Camden Snow Bowl Lodge. So great. So I'd love to spend a few minutes, and I will do my best to be brief, and talk about the season we had at the Camden Snow Bowl. Before I start, I want to begin with a little bit of recognition. Rochelle Gagney is our operations manager. She's not here with us today. But I'd like to recognize her as well as Grace McMullen. Grace is in the room with us today. For those of you who don't know Grace, she's our assistant general manager, has been with us for 2 seasons. Between Rochelle and Grace, the two of them are largely responsible for really everything I'm going to share with you this evening. We're very fortunate to have them on the team. Rochelle manages all of our operations. So when you think about everything from getting the lifts ready for the season to making snow and grooming to making sure the lifts are running safely throughout the season, she handles all of that. And what her commitment to the Snow Bowl is pretty incredible. We were down an overnight snowmaker this year, and Rochelle said, "I'll do it." So not only did she manage all of operations, but she worked the overnights for a good part of the season to make sure that we had great snow. Just really can't say enough about her commitment to what we do there. And Grace really handles just about everything else. So when it comes to things like our social media and our marketing and our group sales and our tickets and rentals and managing all of the programs, none of that happens without Grace's hand in it. So Grace, I know you're here. Thank you very much for all you've done. I also had a request for just very briefly some financial performance. I'm not going to go too deeply into it because we're going to cover it when we talk about the budget. But if we're talking about good news at the Snow Bowl, I think I'd be remiss if we didn't at least talk about some of the financial good news at the Snow Bowl. So this year, our gross revenue was just shy, and I mean $30,000 shy of $2 million in revenue this season. That does include the town contribution of $236,000. So without it, it's still north of $1.7 million. We put that in comparison to what we did in 2025. 2025, our gross revenue was $1.3 million. So significantly greater, even when you remove the town contribution. Our gross expenses were $1.7 million as well. We actually spent $30,000 of the $236,000 that the town contributed to the Snow Bowl budget this year. So in the grand scheme of things, it was a flat year. We covered our expenses, which is really tremendous. And this is the first time that has happened, I think 5 or 6 years at this point. And when we look at the individual categories that drove that, our day ticket sales were up 23%. Our season pass sales were up 30%. Our ski lessons, income from ski lessons was up 90% year over year. And our tubing income, we installed that tubing lift. Our tubing income was up 150% over the previous year. So the last stat I'll leave you with before, and then we'll get into the presentation itself, is last year it cost the town about $3,500 a day to operate the Snow Bowl. And that is because we were operating at a loss. This year, we made $3,200 a day. So that's a $6,700 delta between what we did on a daily basis last year versus what we did this year. Last year, operating in the red, this year, operating in the black. So we'll get into a lot more detail when we talk about the Snow Bowl budget, but it certainly is part of the good news story. And last public service announcement on that page is every photo you see in this presentation is from the 2026 season. If you go through and count the smiles on faces, I also think that's a record-breaking statistic for the season. So some season highlights. We opened on December 13th. It's a day earlier than we opened the prior year. And Monday, January 26th was a very special day at the Camden Snow Bowl. It was a powder day, and we were open. For those of you who are not familiar with our hours, generally speaking, Snow Bowl is closed Monday and Tuesday. This year we did something special. You may recall, and your heating bills may recall, January 24th, which was a Saturday where we had high winds and negative temperatures. And ultimately, for the safety of our guests and employees, we made the decision to close the Snow Bowl. So we closed that Saturday. It created this perfect storm opportunity for us, literally. We had this blizzard that was coming through, and we were able to open for that blizzard on Monday. We did something else on that day that was pretty unique for the Snow Bowl. We decided we would do very little grooming. So we left it powder. There were a couple beginner trails for the beginners. The rest of the mountain was all powder. And I'll tell you, the excitement from that one day alone was a season changer for us. It was just really a fantastic day. I continue to talk about, whenever I get the opportunity, the fourth grade Learn to Ski program. This year we had 358 students from 14 different area schools participate in the program. And, thanks to the Ragged Mountain Ski Club, which I will get to in just a few minutes, we were able to fund that program so that the children who are coming and participating in it getting three times over the season lessons, rentals, and lift tickets for absolutely nothing, which makes this truly helps make this a community mountain and supporting the community that surrounds us. We were successful in building our new ticketing and rental building. If you haven't been over to the Snow Bowl, it's the new blue building that's adjacent to the blue building we built last year out in the middle of the park, and not in the middle of the parking lot, the end of the parking lot. I have to tell you, it was a big success, served us very well this season. Not having that trailer on the property anymore did a lot of things for us. It was much safer. And for those folks sitting out on the deck, they had a beautiful view of Hosmer Pond, which we haven't had there in a long time. If you are a skier at the Snow Bowl, you'll know that since redevelopment, one of the most challenging parts of being at the Snow Bowl was trying to get onto the chairlift at the double chair. The grade at which you had to climb in order to get on the chair made it very, very challenging, particularly for beginner skiers. So over the course of the summer and the fall, our full-time crew spent a lot of time and got very creative on finding free dirt and brought the dirt into the Snow Bowl, and we were able to significantly reduce the grade. I probably had more comments about the double chair ramp this year than anything else at the Snow Bowl, just the appreciation from our customers and particularly the kids, how much more easy it was to get onto the ramp. What a huge success the Toboggan Nationals was this year. I saw Holly here earlier. I don't know if she's still in the room. There she is. Holly did just a tremendous job this year. What a success. If you were out there or saw any images of the tent city out on Hosmer Pond, we had avenues and streets this year. It was 3 or 4 deep. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of success, and it was just a great event for the community. Season highlights have to include the quality of our snowmaking. Last season, so the season before this one, was my first season, and I was very anxious to get the mountain open and convince the team, much against their preference, to make snow quickly and push it out even quicker. And what that did was really impact the quality of the snow, because when you push out wet snow, it tends to freeze and become ice. This year, we were much more patient, and it really showed in the quality of the snow. We took full advantage of the cold weather that Mother Nature brought us, but we also waited much longer. There were the downside was it took us a little longer to open the triple chair this year. The upside was the quality of skiing that we produced was substantially better. The quality of snow was substantially better than it was the prior year. The strength of our uphill community, if you're not a skier, you're not sure what that is. It's people that ski both up and down the hill. The strength of that community just continues to grow. Really, it's been a phenomenon since COVID that particular sport has grown, and it continues to increase in popularity. And I specifically held a public meeting with the uphill community. It was a great forum. We talked about how to maintain the safety that we need on the mountain, at the same time making sure we could provide as much access as we could to the uphill community. And I really think we made leaps and bounds, making sure that we can keep the community in mind while still caring for the safety. And did I mention we had great snow? It certainly helped this season, but it really was amazing. What's that? And forgive me. Yes. I think I have, maybe I didn't. Yeah, I do have it on the next slide. So we did install, I'll get to it now. Thanks, Audra. A tubing lift this season. And as you can see by the numbers, if you just jump down to the bottom of the page, what a difference that made to the number of participants who decided to come out and tube this year. We had 1,700, which is over double of what we had the prior year. It's amazing when moms and dads don't have to drag their kids and the tubes up to the top of the hill, and there's a tubing lift to do that for them, what that means for the activity. You'll see the photo on the right? That's some folks that were out there enjoying the tubing hill. So I mentioned we had 63 operating days. We sold 14,000 day tickets this year. That compares to 11,000 last year. So if you're wondering, not easy to draw the conclusions about how that helped contribute to our financial performance year over year. But it also tells you that people want to come to the Snow Bowl, right? We had, that many more people that decided this was worth traveling to. We sold 2,385 season passes this year. That's up from 2,100 last year. And we use an RFID scanning system to check lift tickets. So you may remember the lift tickets of old. That was on a wicket. It was a paper ticket. Now the ticket stays in the copy, and we have a hand scanner that we use to scan tickets. This is our second year doing it. We scan about 70% of the time. So 30% of the time, we simply didn't have the staff to scan. But within that 70% of the time, we scanned 109,000 lift tickets, which means that's 109,000 times up the chairlift. So that's a lot of participation. So if you're just trying to get your arms around the scale of what we do over 63 days in the winter, 109,000 chairlift rides. So we look at visitations, 8% came from Camden, 81% from within Maine, and almost 20%, almost 1 in 5 came from out of state to come to the Snow Bowl. And when I think about what that means that's 20% of people that are either staying with family and friends or staying in local establishments, that are likely eating in local restaurants, and are likely shopping in local shops. So it is great to know that we have this town-owned community asset that's also contributing to our local economy. Our ski school. We had last year, we had 750 people participate in ski school, and I thought that was pretty good for our tiny mountain. This year, we had 1,600 people participate in either an individual or a lesson program this year. We talked about tubing, the 1,700 people that decided to go tubing this season. And one of the things that contributed to our increase in people likely from out of state is the Indy Pass program. So if you're familiar with like the Epic Pass or the Icon Pass for some of the large ski resorts, this is a pass that allows people to ski at independent mountains around the country and within Europe and Canada. And so it's similar to an Icon Pass, but it's for smaller independent mountains. Last year was their first year operating. We had 366 people come to the Snow Bowl through the Indy Pass. This year we had 826. So great growth there. So I can't talk about the season without talking about how appreciative I am of our community and our volunteers and those that really helped with make it such a successful year. I want to start with the Ragged Mountain Ski Club. When I first started 2 years ago, the ski club was excited and small, and was really struggling to help get garner participation. They were alive and well, but it was in a very different spot. Their revitalization has really been amazing. And they were responsible this year for the annual ski swap, which was held at the Camden Snow Bowl. Historically, or the last few years, it's been held at the high school. This year, we held it at the Snow Bowl, and it was a huge success. And the ski club was just a huge partner in making all of that happen for us. We had 462 Camden residents ski for free. That's up 156 tickets from last year. So, again, we think about a community mountain. We think about, the benefits to the town of being here. I love the fact that we had 462 residents come and ski at the Snow Bowl, or 462 passes on our ski for free days. I mentioned the Ragged Mountain Ski Club. And you're aware of the 4th grade Learn to Ski program. We also have a scholarship program where if there are families within the community who really want to provide skiing opportunities for their children, but financially it's just not possible for them. We offer a scholarship program. That scholarship program is largely funded by the Ragged Mountain Ski Club. And the generous donation this year of over $22,000, both to the fourth grade Learn to Ski program and the scholarship program, as well as providing opportunities for race coaches to go to training and providing scholarships for the race team itself, really is just amazing. We're very fortunate to have the Ragged Mountain Ski Club, and they're alive and well and always looking for members and will graciously accept donations. And Tara's here representing the ski club, and Steve is here representing the ski club. And I'll just say thank you to both of you for your great efforts. We appreciate it very much. I mentioned the Uphill Community Open House, so I won't go any further. And again, when I think about thankful for our community, couldn't be any happier with the partners that we have in both side country sports and Snow Dogs. They both contribute far above and beyond, just paying rent, if you will, and contributing to our revenue. Side country sports, when we're busy in the rental shop, send somebody over from their business to help out. They don't charge us for it. They just come in and do that. When it's cold outside, Jason and Snow Dogs provides free hot chocolate and hand warmers to the staff and free coffee. And when the kids come in from their ski lessons, he provides free hot beverages, hot cocoa to them as well. It's just so great having partners as committed to the community and to the Snow Bowl as we do. And I'm very thankful that we have them there. And then if we keep going, the team, we have such an amazing team. We had more than 2,000 volunteer hours this season. The full-time crew, so if you're not aware, our Parks and Recreation crew in the winter works at the Camden Snow Bowl. And they made snow, they groomed the hill, they loaded chairlifts, they kept the lifts running, they worked in the rental shop, they cleaned the lodge, they ran the tubing hill and toboggan chute, and ultimately they just kept the wheels on the bus. And they are such a talented group and committed group. And we're very fortunate to have them within the team. And our seasonal team, I joke around with them when they come to work that nobody gets rich working at the Snow Bowl. But this group of people largely come back year after year because they love the community, they love what we do there, and they love being part of something special. And we couldn't do what we do. We couldn't be open. We wouldn't be open if it wasn't for our very talented crew, volunteers, full-time and seasonal employees that really make it all possible. So a big thank you to all of them. I mentioned the new rental and ticketing building. The old one, if you weren't aware, was falling down. It was an old mobile home that we converted into a rental shop, and it was just became unsafe, and we knew we had to get rid of it. The Ragged Mountain Recreation Area Foundation generously donated $100,000 towards the new building. So we had allocated $50,000 from the Snow Bowl budget, but we weren't going to get a building with $50,000. And the foundation stepped up very generously and donated $100,000 towards that building. Cold Ridge Concrete and Ferriello Construction poured the slab for us that the building is sitting on, provided the cement, and did it at free of charge. So at no cost to the community, no cost to the taxpayers, no cost to the Snow Bowl. And then everybody else you see on this list, so Dan Ford, Tom Hedstrom, Carpentry Solutions, North Point Ventures, Pendleton Heating, and Seacoast Plumbing and Heating, all deeply discounted their services. So imagine getting a building built for $150,000 in this day and age. And we were able to do that as a result of our local businesses and the foundation stepping up to really contribute and participate and allow this to happen. So for those that are out there, if you're anybody listening, that is part of that group, thank you very much for all that you did. And lastly, just a big thank you to the community. This is a community ski area. It's great to have, every time a vote comes up that involves the decisions that need to be made about the Snow Bowl, whether it's, providing $236,000 to cover operating costs or providing money to buy a new groomer. The town has consistently supported what we do at this Camden Snow Bowl. And as somebody who has been skiing there for the last quarter of a century and taught his children to ski there and has been involved on the ski patrol for as long as I have, and I just feel very grateful to be part of this community and know that this very, very special community asset has the support of the town and the board and the town manager. So thank you all for your continued support. It's very much appreciated. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great feel-good report. Thank you. Spent a lot of time out there with my granddaughter, who isn't quite ready to ski yet, but she's loving her hot chocolates and love the big screen with the YouTube videos of it's very inspiring. She thinks she's going to be doing all those things very soon. So we shall see, but the atmosphere is great. And all the staff, and it just felt like a great season. So thank you. Anybody on the board like to comment? Or we appreciate you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Susan.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
I guess especially the ticketing booth is so, like that especially just changes the dynamic when you get there, rather than like trying to find a place to park and look for dragging the kids up somewhere. And I dropped kids off and it was like, oh, you could just see that they went right there, and that my kid's friend whose parent had already done the tickets online, it just all worked like intuitively. Just so
That was the goal.
I was really
The
impressed the
world
first
of
time I saw
difference.
that.
The world
And
of
people
difference
figured out the
understanding.
traffic pattern in the parking lot. A little bit
That was good how
counterintuitive,
you
but
quickly pivoted back to, the one thing didn't work and you moved it
Yeah,
around. and-
there was a better idea than mine, and we went with that one. So,
Great job. Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
thank you so much. Okay, on to the action items. First one is the Camden Farmers Market license agreement for Tannery Park. And you've got the agreement in the packet. We got any questions regarding this? Terms are the same as what we've seen in the past, and
Are they the same?
Yep. So, the term, it begins on the 2nd of May and it runs through the 31st of October, Saturdays and Wednesdays. And the Wednesday market begins a little later, so June 24th, and it ends on September 30th.
any questions or comments from the board?
It's fine to me.
Seeing none?
Motion to approve.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Excellent. Okay. Paid parking permits.
So Holly's going to come up
Holly's gonna-
to explain the proposed permits or permit.
In your packet, I included a memo, and I'm not going to bore people with the background of how the parking program went last year, et cetera. But I will say that, we've all heard a lot of frustration from people from residents especially, about the need to, how to manage the parking permit, the resident permit program. Confusion about how do I initiate my 2 hours of free parking? What if I want to, why can't I do an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon so I can do lunch and then some shopping? And so in thinking about, how to mitigate a lot of those concerns and frustrations from residents, and then talking with Spencer in parking enforcement as to how things could work. There was really no, and also Chriso had mentioned a few meetings back about, the possibility of using a sticker so that people didn't have to go and interact with a kiosk or an app or the texting. And on the enforcement side, it's problematic to provide 2 hours of free parking without the user telling us when they're starting. And so the conclusion that I came to is that the best way to, what my recommendation is for resident parking is to provide free parking for residents with a sticker. And essentially what that does is that turns the green spaces into blue spaces for residents. So they come into town, they've just got to, they can park in a green space. Instead of initiating a parking session in a green space for their 2 free hours, they get the 2 hours of free parking just as if it was a blue space. That's sort of the easiest way to think about it. People will still need to register their vehicles, that we know that they have a permit, so that when Spencer goes around, looks at the license plate with the handheld device, the onus then to, just like when he is going around today and monitoring vehicles where they're parked in blue spaces, he's going to now need to be the person that enters the data in for the resident. So he will essentially scan a license plate. It'll pop up there, they're a resident. He'll note the time. He'll take photos of the valve stems, which is how he digitally chalks the tires these days. And then he knows that next time he comes around, if that vehicle's still there, he knows what time he initially saw them. So the work falls on to enforcement instead of on the resident. And my hope is that this is a lot more amenable to residents. We're not looking to make money off residents at all. It's really about, keeping the traffic moving, keeping the cars moving out of the spaces so that more people can come in. And so by putting together this program instead, my hope is that we'll be able to appease everybody and make it a little bit easier. And then we'll be able to monitor through the season, along with all the other data that we're going to be looking at, and see how it's working.
Any more, are there any other changes that you want to highlight? So a person parked in, a Camden resident parked in it'll essentially be a 2-hour space, just as it always has been.
Correct. A green space becomes a blue space. Yeah.
And overstaying will be
Eligible for a ticket.
eligible for ticketing,
Yep.
just as it always has been.
Yep.
Okay.
And they could move to another green space and
Mhm.
park for another 2 hours.
Mhm.
If that's what they need to do. But I don't, my sense is that we don't have a large problem with that kind of moving between spaces with a lot of our residents. And so that's why I feel like this is sort of a loss leader by giving up the revenue.
Mhm.
I think that we're not going to, that's not where our issues are. It's not with residents.
I think, doesn't the ordinance already include that 2-hour shuffle that we've all perfected in Camden?
No, not all of
And I
us.
do think that residents are known to employ that strategy too. I certainly have done it as a downtown employee, but I think our ordinance does already have something.
Yes.
You are not allowed to do that. So I think we would continue to tell residents that moving your car from one 2-hour space to another 2-hour space every 2 hours should continue to make you eligible for a ticket.
Yes, my point just being that if we had 2 hours of free parking, you can't, you would use your 2 hours of free parking and then move to another space. And I just want to make sure that it's clear that it doesn't change once you've been in a space for 2 hours. It doesn't then become, you've got to now start paying. I just want to make that
So, but the important thing too is you're able to, or it sounds like the way that Spencer will operate is that he'll be able to see the data. And
Yeah.
so then we'll be able to even tell how much of an issue that really is.
Yeah,
If
that's-
it is one or not.
Yes.
And it sounds like you found a way to make it easy so that all you have to do is pick up your ticket at the town
Sticker?
office. A sticker at the town office. And you can put one on each of your vehicles, I suspect.
Yeah, I mean, something that last year we allowed residents to get 2 hours of free parking with each of their vehicles because it's tied to the vehicle license plate. There are a couple of things that you could do, or you could limit it to, one vehicle per person. You could, there are some other things you can do, but I recommend just to keep it easy to start. And we can sort of try to gauge with the data that we collect and with what Spencer knows very, very well, certain vehicles that he's very familiar with, where we might have problems and we might need to make some adjustments, but I don't recommend making any, wholesale changes at the moment. Just leave it pretty simple.
So did you say that the enforcement by Spencer is by license plate?
Yes.
So what's the stickers for?
The sticker will help him know that, let's say his device goes down, he knows that it's a resident.
It'll make it easier for him.
Make it a little bit easier for him, that visible.
And
Yeah.
that's not we used to have dump stickers
Yeah.
Sure.
for identifying residents.
It makes it easier for the residents to not have to, who are coming in for a short period, to not have to use a kiosk or a text or whatever. They can just quickly pop in and use those spaces.
Well, then, my understanding is that with the sticker, you just park in any spot in town except for the public landing.
Yep.
For 2 hours.
And the permit,
And you do not need to register at the kiosk.
That's right.
correct. You don't need to start your session. You just go in and park.
Just like you always have been. So this is the thing that is most close to normal that we've had with regards to paid parking, where it's easy. You don't have to go to a kiosk. You don't have to have a smartphone. You just have to have a windshield with a sticker.
So,
Camden resident.
So if you're a resident and you have a sticker and you want to stay 4 hours, what's the method?
Got to pay.
You're going to get a ticket, or you will have overstayed just as it is now.
In that 2 hour space. All the
It's the
green
same.
spaces become blue spaces and blue spaces are 2 hours.
Sure.
I don't
but
know.
I have not internalized green space,
I don't
blue
know if that's
space,
the
white
easiest way to
space.
explain it to everybody at this
Right.
point.
But essentially, it's what it is now, that you have 2 hours of parking. And if you came in for 2 hours today, you would have 2 hours. If you wanted to stay longer, you would move or do or go to one of the lots where there is free
Right.
all day parking, which are several
Right.
that are very.
Or if you are a resident, would you register at the kiosk for your additional 2 hours?
And pay?
And pay.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's one of the
Yeah.
questions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if people want to use the kiosk or the app and they have a resident sticker, they've got a permit, they can certainly do that and start a session. I mean, that's going to be helpful to Spencer. If he scans a license plate and it comes up that they started their time at 10 and it's now 11, he doesn't have to do any work. He just comes around another time and looks at that vehicle again the second time and see where they are.
And it's actually easier on the person who's parked, because if you need to extend it, you can go into the app and extend it.
You certainly can.
And
Yeah.
don't run the risk of getting a ticket.
Right,
Yep.
so there's no limit to the number of extended hours you can.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
is going to be a huge
Uh,
problem.
But we'll
But,
have the
No.
data to see. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Keep it easy.
Yeah.
At the beginning, as long as we can collect the data and if we saw that, oh, wow, we lose $10 million or what is some huge number because of something,
Right.
Well, more like all the business owners. that-
consideration.
Well, I pulled data from last year and I was able to see where people extended times.
Mhm.
It's pretty easy to see that. And so we'll be able to track when people are extending times and sort of extrapolate the information out from there.
Allison.
Well, that is kind of like the answer to
many of our prayers.
I was
from
hoping.
Many months ago. It's like, oh, wow, look at that. It is.
It's actually
possible.
making me look forward to getting people signed up for their
Because that is,
permits this year.
Yeah. Great. I didn't know that that was going to be possible so soon. So thank you. Just one other derivative issue in terms of this whole collecting data and knowing thing, looking at the map where the blue and the green, I do think that in places where we have changed, where there used to be street parking that was all day free parking, which is also in the parking ordinance that we have, that changing any of those areas this year to 2-hour limited parking is similar to the Mountain Street issue, kind of like a huge can of worms, understanding that the purpose of that was to try to keep people from just using those residential streets as all-day parking, but it creates this frustration for residents of those streets who had all-day parking in front of their homes before, and now all of a sudden will be told it's only 2 hours. And so I think that in that same line of thinking where this year we're collecting data, that we shouldn't take away any of that free all-day parking and turn it into 2-hour limited.
So before you go too much further, I did there is an additional change. I did adjust the map.
I
And
see
you'll
that.
note that on Mountain Street, which was blue,
Yep,
it's now all-day free parking.
which I think is great. I also wonder if we're going to run into, I can't imagine that Wilson Avenue was 2-hour parking before all of this, like in the ordinance. Wilson Avenue is like a tiny little residential.
I mean,
One-way street.
you've got 2-hour parking going up to Wilson and actually passing Wilson, and so and turning that into all day, it doesn't.
I just don't think you're going to, we're opening up a can of worms when all of a sudden in front of your house, there's 2-hour, where there used to be no regulations, which also means that anybody can park there, like the business owner, the people that work downtown can park there. All of a sudden, having that be 2-hour limited, I don't see a lot of people utilizing Wilson Avenue as like their place to park for a quick run in downtown. I just think we should collect data and not take away the free all-day parking on these side streets.
So that's already been striped with blue. That was striped last year. Pardon?
Wilson
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
and that
Yep.
didn't cause problems?
Nope. I've heard nothing from people on Wilson Street. And so I would
Some of
prefer
them
to
might
just,
like that it's not.
Well,
Well-
I mean, we sort of talked about this last time of like, if we start sort of saying, oh, well, it can't, not in front of your house, not in front of your house, we start whittling it down. And
Well, it's just also taking away free all day. Like I hear from people on that side of town a lot, like they're people that work in businesses there that are looking for somewhere to park all day. There's a lot of options over on this side with the public safety lot and the Knox Mill lot, but not as many options over on the Bayview Street side. And so I just worry, like if you look and you say, okay, if you work down there, in order to get to somewhere, one of these streets where there's free all-day parking, you're going to go up to Belmont, Pleasant. I just don't,
Chestnut, Upper Chestnut,
Bay
above
Road
Lamont.
should be marked as well as, but
well, there's no real, anyway.
So I
just, there is an ordinance too that delineates where there's 2-hour limited parking. I just don't see what the benefit is to anybody by saying, okay, you used to be able to stay here all day. Now you can only stay here for 2 hours. We're not even getting paid parking revenue from it. So I just don't know. We're just saying, okay, Spencer now has to go and patrol Wilson Avenue to make sure that people don't stay longer than 2 hours. I don't see who's benefiting from that.
maybe the residents on Wilson Street have had yacht club people parking there all day, and now they're going to enjoy the fact that there aren't going to be
Oh.
cars parking there all day long. I don't know. I haven't heard,
Is that what's going on?
I haven't heard either way, but I'm just surmising that that's a possibility. I mean, there's lots of
You get a lot of, I
possibilities.
think you get a lot of all-day parking, and you know, that's sort of
On
what we
Wilson Ave?
heard of that whole end, because by the time you've moved up Bayview Street, and we've heard that from some of the Bayview Street property owners who are asking for more shorter term because they would like more turnover of that.
Oh, well,
I mean, I've
That
often,
was, that was some of
okay.
the
I
response
mean, the Mountain
from
Street
the-
thing was the thing that I was most concerned about. So if you think there are people over there that are actually pleased with the new 2-hour
Well-
limits in front of their.
And to Chris's point, as we get the data, this whole program can be adapted and modified as we go along.
and I think, and I have spoken with some of the business, some of the employees and business owners on that end of Bayview Street. And, you know, concerned about the long walk to get to an all-day parking lot, let's say. And so, you know, a month in, we could start thinking about, okay, what do we want to do for some permitting, some employee kinds of permits in some of the areas where it's a lot longer walk to get to an all-day parking lot. And that's something that we can start thinking about, but coming right out of the gate where we don't really know where the issues are, and the volume of issues that we're going to be hearing about.
Sure, yeah, I guess it was just thinking that because we don't know what the issues are, then why are we making the change there? But that's all fine. I think that was clear that the Route 52 Mountain Street thing was presenting a problem.
Yep.
But as long as we're open to changing it,
Yep.
if there is
Mhm.
a big issue,
When
then-
I start getting a lot of complaints from a certain area, I will be sure and let someone know
I mean, not that.
But for
that we need to
tonight,
discuss something.
This is all great, and
Back to
thank
the
you,
permit.
Holly. And let's, do we need to vote to approve this new permit system?
If you would, because I think you all have voted on some other things that,
Just real quick, compared to the October 2-week test, or how many every week, where was there changes to the colors on the map?
the only,
Was it just Mountain Street?
Mountain Street is the only one that I converted from blue to white.
Okay, so that's the only difference. So
Yep.
that's good. So it's similar to the test
Yep.
that we did.
And I don't think that had
You know
ever,
what?
Mountain Street had never
There
even
is,
been
there is
striped.
one other spot. We had a very small spot right in front of the public safety, where the lower lot is a paid lot now during the season. That little strip of road, I think there's like 2 spaces. That was green as well. I turned that to blue because it's blue across the street. It doesn't make sense to have green on one side and blue on the other.
Okay.
So those are the only 2 changes that I made. I didn't think.
In the last bit, we talked about a little bit 2 or 3 meetings ago was, okay, that's great for residents. What about business owners who pay taxes? Is there a way that a business owner who owns a building or a shop in Camden, is there a way that they could get a residence pass? I mean, they're a taxpayer. They're probably contributing more than many of us are by having a business in town. They're paying taxes.
That's really a policy choice. It's up to,
Is there a way?
Yeah,
we
it
could-
wasn't recommended from the working group to do that. The recommendation was to stick with cars that are registered and pay excise tax in town.
I think if we keep it this, and I know that, I think, you know, we've sort of got some ways to do variances. I know that you were saying that, like the Windjammer crew's asking for some parking.
Yep.
That we can have some case by case when there's a need, and then sort of see, but you know, a lot of business owners already have some of their own parking established because of these issues, so.
Well, and I think it's difficult to know where to draw the line, because if you've got somebody who lives in a surrounding town but owns a property here but doesn't register their car here, it just turns into this, where do we draw the line?
Well, that's what I was just thinking. If you own a business that's in Camden on these green areas, I would just think it would be.
No, I understand your point. I think that we're just, you know, have to draw a line somewhere for the initiation of what we're going to do this season.
I
also think that it's important to remember that business owners are getting an extraordinary benefit with the revised parking, with revised zoning ordinance and the parking requirements associated with that. And part of the problem is we've dragged this out so long, the recommendations from the downtown master plan. But it used to be that every single business in Camden had to provide their own parking. In order to open the business every year, they have to prove that they have a certain number of parking spaces, and they had to lease those parking spaces, sometimes in the Camden Parking Company lot. Sometimes they were paying into a fund. And this is thousands of dollars for these businesses. Some businesses we still require that for inns, still have that requirement. But for all the other businesses, that's an expense that just completely went away for them. And the newer businesses might not realize that, but it was a significant hurdle and a significant expense that's been eliminated.
So you're looking for a vote from us on the permit specifically?
Recommendation.
Yep.
So moved.
I'll second that for permit.
Is there any public input there?
I mean, it's,
Sure.
Holly, I'm sure can answer it and everything, but this new set with the permits, the stickers and everything, how does it affect parking down at the public landing by town residents?
I think isn't that the same for the public landing?
It would be the same for the public landing. The public landing and the lower portion of the public safety lot turn into paid parking during the season.
Mike, can I have a question?
Certainly.
I said that paid, the public landing and the lower portion of the public safety lot become paid parking during the season. So from May 22nd until October 31st.
Or does the sticker
No, the
cover it?
sticker, I mean, the sticker would still apply, 2 hours down, down there. Yep.
Whoop. Hi, Sue Michaelovitz, Camden resident. First of all, I want to thank Chris and Ken for voting against paid parking. When you determine that employees and business owners in the town could have access to parking in remote spaces, which physical therapists, occupational therapists, and physical medicine physicians in the area did you discuss this with? Because many people are able to go to work, don't require handicapped parking, but have mobility issues. So which of these people did you consult with before you made this decision to force employers and employees to park further away in compliance with ADA? That's the Americans with Disabilities Act.
We know.
So businesses historically have been required in Camden to provide off-street parking. So that is why many of these businesses would have had a place to, many of their clients were actually just parking on the street, but they, that's not been something that's just been allowed in Camden.
I'd like you to respond to my
Expectation.
specific question, please.
Anybody with a
Well, I
handicap
don't know
sticker
that that
parks for
has
free.
been part of the.
There are people that have
process.
mobility issues that do not have handicap stickers nor would get them. So
Right,
if
but-
someone has a mobility issue and they can't walk 5 blocks because they may have asthma in the summer, what have you done to discuss this with specialists who are experts in this before you made your decision? That was my question.
The
Thank you.
most prominent problem in Camden is people during this time of year not being able to find a parking spot at all. And so if there are no available parking spots, the people, like my dad, who recently passed away, has COPD very severely and had to give up going down to French and Braun during the summer because he couldn't find a parking spot close at all. So I think the better utilization of the parking that we do have is designed to create accessibility for everybody in a way that is more fair. And there is no perfect solution, but we have been very much thinking about different
people and how to allocate that resource fairly.
Well, I hope that future select board members take that into consideration. Thank you.
Any further comments on the specific question in front of us, which is about the resident permit? So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board?
Yeah, I'm dithering because I firmly believe that the citizens should be offered a chance to vote on whether we have paid parking or not. And yet this permit process makes it less onerous. So it's kind of a toss-up. I don't want to vote for it because that would appear that I'm favoring paid parking. So I may be a mugwump and abstain.
Okay.
Just to explain why.
I'm pretty sure I was the only one that voted against the fee structure last time. So you voted for that.
I know.
Yeah, and Ken, the reason why I would vote to support the sticker for the residents is because it would make it easier for the residents if it is indeed the case that paid parking continues. At least it's some bit of a fallback position that does something at least for the residents, regardless of what select board decision might follow concerning paid parking. And so it helps the citizens. It doesn't hurt the citizens by allowing them to have a sticker. It doesn't mean that I'm a proponent of paid parking. It just means that here's an accommodation for residents that we can make if we have to go ahead with paid parking.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris and Allison. That actually carries some weight. So thank you.
Okay, any further? All those in favor?
Chris convinced me.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Chris.
There's another unanimous vote for my list.
Well, and I think that, and thank you, Holly, for the time and attention. I think the charge that's been waged against us within this process has been that we have not been listening and have not been hearing what people are saying in town. And this is a clear demonstration that our effort has been to strike a balance between the need to generate some revenue and the opportunity to create as seamless and frictionless an experience for the citizens of Camden as we possibly can, while not giving away the potential benefits of the program. So I really appreciate the amount of time and focus that you've put into this and taking all of this into consideration. And I think the solution may not be a perfect one, but it's a great opportunity for us to really see how this will work for this season.
I've had a lot of people come in probably on a daily basis, 2 or 3 a day for the last few weeks, wanting to renew their permits from last year, their resident permits. And so I've been collecting all their emails and saying, Tuesday night, we're going to talk about it. We're going to make a decision. And on Wednesday morning, I'm going to send an email out to all you people who've come in and let you know what's going on. And so I'm really excited to be able to do that tomorrow. And I know that it's going to be a lot of, really happy people with this news. So thank you very much for supporting
And
it.
I understand Chris was very eager to design the permit.
It might be a sticker with Chris's face on it. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet.
No one wants that.
Hey, I have been asking for stickers. I think everybody's been asking for stickers since the beginning. All of a sudden, it was like, Chris, I had this great idea.
Everybody
it was
loves
just
a
Chris needed to say
sticker.
it.
I love a sticker.
Bring back the dump sticker while
No, the dump stickers are
joke.
The
People
sticker,
get
we
dump
just like
stickers
a
to
sticker.
recycle pretty soon. Yeah.
Okay, so we can now move on to the warrant. And I guess, do we need to sort of walk through this article by article just to make sure that No,
if-
no.
If you so choose.
No, I mean,
We should
most of it,
mention things that we have a concern with.
yeah. So are there any specific, I mean, a lot of this is boilerplate that we see year after year, but Allison, and anybody wants to point out?
Yes, would start with a specific, but also somewhat general comment that I will once again suggest that we return to the practice of printing the select board recommendation, and where relevant, the recommendation of the planning board or budget committee or whichever entity is relevant. I continue to hear from voters that when they go to vote on all of this, it is very helpful for them to see where there are areas of a 3-2 vote, a 4-1 vote versus a unanimous vote. We go through the exercise of recommending to put these on the ballot, and I think it does more harm than good to leave that without that printed recommendation.
And yet, it looks, when we vote 5-0 to put something on the ballot, that we're in favor of the action that we're voting upon, and it is not true. Often, we will disagree with the action, but we want to give the voters a chance, so that putting any statement such as the select board approves of this warrant article by a vote of 5-0 would be misleading.
Well,
And it is one of the things that we are not supposed to do, is we're not supposed to guide people in how to vote. So putting a piece like that on the ballot goes against that principle that we're not supposed, because we are not supposed to guide people in how they vote.
We actually are supposed to.
By doing that, it puts that out there, and I don't think it's right to do either, for the same reason that Ken mentioned, that by putting what the vote was by the select board, it makes it look like all the members or some members do or do not want a particular item. I don't think that's right to show. People need to be educated. Yes, it is true. People need to be educated about what they're voting for. That is a public responsibility. That's the basic tenet that we need, and that's why we have public schools for Thomas Jefferson. But an educated public is required. Yes, the ballot questions need to make sense, but no, we should not be leading the public in one way or the other by stating something with the intention, especially, of swaying public opinion on how they should vote.
Well, I think that, and we've talked about this.
I mean, the result is that they're going to think we've recommended all of it unanimous.
Well, but there's a distinction here that every time this comes up, and you and I disagree. My understanding of saying, let's put it on with the select board vote indicates to me that the board has done the process of having a public hearing, and that the article itself has gone through the proper channels, whether it's planning board vetting of a zoning ordinance, or, something that we've discussed, like the Lupin Terrace land acquisition, those types of things, that they've gone through the process, and we agree that it is now ready for the voters to look at, without reflecting how we feel about the article, because no one has a right to know, how I'm going to vote when I go into the voting booth. I would vote here to say,
You're going to
this
vote
has
against
gone-
all this stuff when you get it.
No. But that's my prerogative. The reason why we would have it reflected here would be to say that it's been properly vetted, it's gone through the proper channels, and we agree that it's ready for the voters to vote on.
I just think that we do a lot of dancing around in somewhat of a cowardly way, and that people have a lot to do, and it is to to say that we are just going to actually not agree with any of this stuff, but put it out to the infinite wisdom of the voters. I know that most people do not want to be tasked with having to understand intimately every single one of these things. And the idea that we should not, as elected officials, be voting to put things out to voters that we don't, unless we explicitly say, we're just asking you because we can't decide what to think ourselves. In most cases, we should be voting for these things as a recommendation. And if we are uncertain about whether it's a good idea or not, or how people should vote, we need to flag that for people to say, these are things that not all the select board members agree on. I don't think, I mean, look at this ballot, for instance. There might, I remember with the marijuana thing, that was where everybody got uncomfortable and they were like, oh, I don't want to vote for it, but I want to let people vote and they don't want to have to say what they really think. So that's when this all started, when we started not putting it on there again, because people were afraid of sharing their true opinion. But with all of these things, we should not vote to put it out to voters unless it is a recommendation. I
No,
think that's
not
just
necessarily.
irresponsible.
I don't
Well, I
agree,
think-
and I never will. But
I think
that's
there's,
you and
I mean,
We
I-
should flag for people the things that we're.
I don't think that it gets taken as trying to persuade voters. I wouldn't go that far, Chris. But I think there is an assumption from most people that the select board is in favor of all of these items because they're on
That is what people assume.
they're on the ballot. So there is an assumption that the select board is saying yes, otherwise that we wouldn't put it on the ballot. So it's almost kind of a moot point for most of these, that, you know, those who are really paying attention have been following meetings and going, but the rest are just see it as an assumption whether it has that phrase select board recommends or not.
It actually helps for people when they can go and see that there's like a 3-2 or 4-1. It helps people target in where they might, because they have a limited amount of time. And so they say, oh, if everybody agrees on this, then maybe I won't spend a lot of time researching. But if they have a finite amount of time, they
I
actually
think
look.
you're
And
overestimating how much time people spend.
I think people spend very, very little time, and that we should do our part to help them understand the level of disagreement or not on some of these things. But I can respect that my colleagues disagree with me. I'm just gonna, but I think we do, everybody does owe it as elected officials to make, if we're going through this whole exercise and saying, oh, well, I'm not gonna tell anybody how I'm gonna vote. I think elected officials have a responsibility to share with the public what we actually think, and that
We
if we're
do.
muddying it to
We
the
do,
level of
when-
saying,
as we deliberate.
all I'm saying is I think
Well,
this
that's
is
what we're
ready for the
talking-
voters, but who knows how I'm going to vote. I think we have a responsibility to
I
go
think as
further.
we deliberate all of these, when we put them on the warrant, we make it clear where we stand on them, and there are votes that reflect.
So people could just
our-
watch our meetings, all of them, if they want to know?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Well,
Okay,
I mean,
that's fine.
that's
I'm okay
part
with
of the
being in minority.
responsibility of living in a democracy. You can't just
To
have the
watch every
expectation
select
that,
board meeting.
well, I don't know, Allison.
Shall we go through them?
Yeah. I mean, we've got,
Are there any
are there any,
major outliers other than some of the
I mean,
obvious
we've
ones?
approved most of these are here because we have discussed them and voted on them. I know Sarah would like to say something if you want to come forward.
Hi, Sarah Scrivenich. Putting my budget committee hat back on for a second. We had a discussion at the budget committee in that space between when we had our final vote and just prior to the select board voting. We had some dialogue around, do we want to put forward some of the opinions, some of the perspectives, kind of how we got here. And at the end, what we felt is that it was diminishing the process of the entire committee to start putting forward opinions that didn't represent everybody, and also to start, picking and choosing and having it not come from the entire budget committee, because our work in that process was to have that deliberation and put forward something to the select board. So we're starting to go down a path of, could we draft something, phrase something, publish something and make people aware. But once it was, well, I didn't vote for this and I didn't vote for that, it was all done in a pleasant way, but it just felt like it diminished the effort because at the end you had one budget from us to review. So I just thought it was.
Oh, so you're not going to be the thing that was talked about at the last budget committee meeting where I think Marina was going to start on an explanatory overview for the public to help them know what they're voting for?
We are going to be,
You're gonna do that part.
there's going to be, for going into the next budget season, there is going to be kind of what our recommendations are in terms of what the process is and what we want to see happen going into it. But again, we had
Not the thing about saying, this is what's recommended in the budget and this is what the budget committee, something that was going to be for the public to help them
there's going to be,
digest.
there's going to be recommendations that we kind of finalize, and I can take those, we want to solidify them first in terms of things we want the select board to be looking at and considering. But in terms of it being individual opinions and things like that, we're not going to have it be in piecemeal. So.
No letter like that.
Yeah.
It's not like a voter guide to the budget. with
Because as soon as we said,
recommendations.
well, I was a yay for this and nay for that and yay for this and it diminished the overall process
Right.
in our minds. I just wanted
For
to.
you guys, but for the general public that's just trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, they're relying on the work that's been done.
Okay, in terms of a specific thing, can we review this fire truck warrant article?
Yes.
I'm a little confused by that because are we buying another fire truck?
No. So this is,
Timeline.
it's the same, yeah, it's the same one. It's just the
Which item is this
timeline.
one?
It's,
Article 23.
yeah, it was one that I forgot to include, so it was added later in the day.
Are we sure that we need another fire truck?
Well, we voted to approve the purchase of it last year.
Yes, and we also voted to do some things with the public safety building, which I just,
Well, maybe you could just explain why is this on here again?
sure.
Yes, so last town meeting, the purchase of a fire truck in FY '28 was authorized. And the reason that we asked for approval last year was because the manufacturer supplier said that if we ordered it early, we would assure that it would be delivered by FY '28 and we wouldn't have to pay for it until it was delivered.
And so why is it on there now if we voted for it last year?
So when the fire chief went back to the manufacturer, they said that if we could order it this year, or we could lock in this year, we could get a discount of close to $250,000. So it would be
So we
Much more
voted for a fire truck.
cost effective.
So what was the fire truck that we bought, or that we voted on last year? How much was that one?
The same as this one. This is the exact same fire truck. So it's about 1.1.
Is it that we're buying this
Or-
in sooner than expected? Is that why this
Yes.
is on here?
Yes.
It would be sooner but cheaper.
Sooner but cheaper, and the first debt service payment is this at the same time. So it's FY '28 would be the first payment on it.
But didn't last year's warrant article, weren't we going to buy that one in FY '28?
FY '28 is when the payment would have been due.
So what is different? Why do we have to ask? Why do we have to ask people again? Are we asking?
We're ordering sooner than we said we were going to be when we put it out to voters.
So we're committing funds earlier,
As
but
proposed.
paying at the same time
Yes.
and paying less.
Yes. And also, when I look back through, I realized there was no treasurer's note, and that's required by statute to have a treasurer's note anytime we're going to borrow.
So but we're not leasing.
No, we're
But,
purchasing.
so why is it characterized as a lease payment?
The way that we typically do vehicles, and I don't know, it'll probably be a bond, or it could be, initial lease purchase agreement that gets converted into permanent
I see.
financing. But we include that language in case that's the route we go for the financing
I see.
source.
But it doesn't mention lease in the article. It says for the purchase.
In the note, it does though.
For the first lease
In
payment
case
prior.
it's a lease to
Right.
purchase finance agreement, which it may or may not be.
No. I would
That is kind of weird.
vote no on this, but is there any way to vote on this that I guess we're not
Well,
really
if we,
voting
if
on?
we don't put it on there, what is the impact?
Well, I would say that we probably wouldn't get that. We definitely wouldn't get the discount on the fire truck because we can't say that, the manufacturer's waiting till town meeting patiently for confirmation. So we wouldn't get the $250,000 discount or however, what the exact amount is. And, we would have to come back and ask in the not too distant future again.
So this is essentially giving the town a second chance on the same item.
Mhm.
Because if the answer is no, then the town is not authorized to spend the money.
That's right.
If the answer is yes, it's the same thing as we had last year, except we're committing the money earlier for less.
Yes.
So it's a better deal.
It's a better deal.
Than what we've already approved.
It's a better deal than
essentially.
what's been approved. Yes.
Maybe. I whenever they say, oh, we're just waiting on, you can get this discount if you do it now, and I don't like the idea of this being out there because I could not explain to anybody right now why we need another fire truck, considering how well things are going currently. I love the idea of the budget committee discussing that in detail next year.
I mean, they
Understanding what-
discussed it this
Discussed it
year.
last year.
and Gave us a recommendation.
I would just say that we need a better note on the warrant to really sort of explain what it's actually, that we're not, because as presented, it sounds like it's asking to buy
Yet
another fire truck on
Yeah,
top of the
right.
one that we agreed to buy last
That's
year.
fair enough.
And that to say something about, in the note, to say this is renegotiating the purchase price of the agreed upon fire engine or something like that.
Right.
I trust in the budget committee and the fire department to say that if our fire engine needs to be replaced, this is the time to do it, so.
Yes, I agree. We need a better explanation. Keep it short, but an explanation. So there's language here about total town indebtedness, and that's there because we're taking out more debt. I mean, and this is the only article that requires that.
Correct. So anytime we borrow, we have to have that treasurer's
Yeah,
note.
that's the question.
Yes. Yep.
So should we have a vote on inclusion of this article?
Sure. I'll
Yep,
make a
motion to
motion
approve.
to include the article with some modification to the note to just make it more easily understood as far as if this is not a second one. This is just a better deal on the one that was voted on last year. However, a no vote would mean that, no, we don't go ahead and do it. That's it, Mom, can I buy the car? No, you can't have the $5. All right, here we go.
But we can't buy it anyway if we don't.
Second.
Right.
So we have a motion and a second.
Maybe without the note about mom and dad in the car.
Yeah, we'll make the language somewhat more concise, but
That would be awesome.
that'll be the essence of it.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of including this on the warrant? So we've got 4. All those opposed? 1, 4, 1, 0.
Sorry, Crystal. Can't add it to your list.
Are there other,
Mix it up though, that's the.
are there other specific articles that we would like to?
Yeah, thank you. So I just lost my place. So articles, I think it's 11 and 12, which are acquisition of properties. Sorry, I need to scroll down to it again. What page is that? Oh, there we go.
They're on page
41.
41.
41 of the packet.
Two places. It appears in the summary and it appears in the warrant article, so.
Yep. Page 41 is probably your better record.
Yeah, it's,
That's where you have the full.
oh, I'm looking at the wrong, so to back up a step, we just got a new version of the packet a few hours ago, and I got to say that's not helpful. I have marked up and read the previous version, and so now I must go find that previous version so I can address this issue.
So
Can you,
article,
while he's looking at that, we get a brief description just for folks during the pause on Article 11 and 12?
Certainly. So Article 11 is to approve the acceptance of a deed from the developer of the Greenfield subdivision for the common lot.
This was discussed in, I think, a meeting in maybe January or December.
Yes. And Article 12 is similar. It's the acceptance of a deed from the Lupin Terrace Homeowners Association for their common lot as well.
And that's kind of, that's a new one, whereas we had voted on the other, the Greenfield one for, I don't remember us voting on this particular item as a group. I know we took a field trip, and we saw this, but I don't think we discussed this particular one in a select board meeting before.
You did.
We talked about it. Courtney presented, gave us, and that's why we did not make a final motion.
right.
Right, whereas
we
the
did-
other one,
right.
the Greenfield one, we had made a motion.
No, both of them were discussion items.
Yeah,
And
well,
it was
Haven't voted
really
on
so
either
that
of them.
both of these, the first time you saw them wouldn't be tonight. It would be, we'd discuss them prior to them showing up on the warrant.
But our action item is tonight to decide that to leave them on or.
And it was to avoid if, it was clear that the majority of us were likely to go in the other direction. Staff didn't waste a bunch of time doing this.
So Ken, have you found your notes? Are we ready to?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay, what would you like to add to the discussion?
So based on our discussion on, well, to back up a step, I am very skeptical of the town acquiring properties that are stressed, that are problem properties. They're problems for the homeowners association. So why are we acquiring these problem properties? That's my approach to any of these properties, and specifically, let me start with the Greenfield subdivision. We, as a group, took a tour of both the Greenfield property and the Lupin Terrace property and the Greenfield property. I looked back to see what we had discussed on the January 6th, and in the January 6th packet, we were given a quitclaim deed with covenants that was voted on in 2003. In 2003, it was clear that the town approved the acquisition of a right-of-way, a 25-foot wide strip of land along the top of what is now the berm. So it is some confusion. Now it seems that we've expanded that original idea and we're acquiring the whole property. And yet it's based on the town's vote in 2003, which was not for the whole property. It was only for the 25-foot wide right-of-way. And I would support acquiring the right-of-way, that is reaffirming that the town already voted to acquire that strip of land. But I would not support the town acquiring the whole problem property. Similarly, with the Lupin Terrace, we toured the property and we saw 4 basins for water collection or water deposition areas, 3 of which were in great shape, and 1 of which was definitely eroding and needed some work. But again, since there's only 1 of the 4 that seems to need work, it seems to me that the homeowners association should be responsible for their own property rather than the town acquiring a problem property. So to take it one at a time, I don't know how to move. Let's look at Article 11, which is the Greenfield. I would move that we reaffirm the 2003 vote and only acquire the strip of land as described in the quitclaim deed that was in our packet from January 6th.
The reason that, one of the reasons that that broke down after the 2003 vote was due to the disagreements and uncertainty about where precisely that easement would go. There's, if you want to read back in the old notes from the town archives, which I know most don't want to do, but for those of us who have been trying to figure out why that never happened, the answer seems to lie in significant correspondence back and forth between Roger Moody and others regarding the exact dimensions of where that easement was going to go. Subsequently, the town accepted all of the roads in that subdivision, which generally, as part of the approved subdivision plan, would include the stormwater infrastructure as well. The best way, first of all, the likelihood of getting that homeowners association, which barely exists, to be responsible for a certain part and us responsible for a certain part is the amount that the town would have to put into sorting that all out is probably similar to what might have needed to be sorted out in 2003, which failed and was resource intensive. So this, by acquiring the entire property where people are already walking, that's already a natural area, we eliminate the need to have to argue about the boundaries of the easement. So that would be my argument there, that taking over the entire thing represents a significant public benefit. The stormwater issues are minimal over there. There's a significant natural area that could be beneficial to the town in the future as we need to expand stormwater collection opportunities. That I really like support that thinking of like the town. Every time we go to accept a road, I do truly agree with you, Ken, that we need to be going through that exercise of like, no, thank you for like your gift road. We do not want. Here, I just think that the benefits to the public outweigh the downsides.
Susan, just a procedural
Yes,
thing.
yes.
There's a motion on the floor. There hasn't been a second, so you might want to see if there's a second before you keep having discussion.
Right, so the motion was to
Amend
the article.
to only accept, to
Right,
only
so do we have a second for that motion? Okay, seeing none,
I would move
the
that.
motion fails. Thank you, Bill.
So you don't, unless you want to make a change, you don't need to.
What was that?
We don't need to,
Well, if we never did vote,
I would say unless
Because
you're
we're going
gonna,
to approve
and
the
you're,
warrant.
unless
not
you're
that
gonna
we're going to print
change
it on the
them.
ballot, but
Yeah, unless you're gonna change something, it's easier to approve the whole
warrant.
warrant instead of article by article.
well, we just
Well,
voted
let's-
on the fire truck. So I think in going,
I don't think you voted. I think.
we did, I
we
voted
did.
against it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
because it
So
had a-
I'm just
But that was the change there.
continuing on, since we've already started down that path of identifying a few that we vote for, or
I agree. We are pulling out a few. We don't know how many for independent discussion and voting. So I think we should vote independently on
then
Articles
Ken gets a chance
11
to vote
and
no
12.
for the record, and
Okay, so we have a motion
when we won't print it anywhere.
to accept the article as drafted
I'll second that.
in a
For
second.
Article 11.
For Article 11. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 4 in favor, opposed, 1 opposed. Okay, so we'll go on to Article 12.
Excuse me, Susan, for interrupting, but did we miss our chance to talk about paid parking in general?
Nope.
No, we're not there.
Okay.
That's the public input.
That's the very last thing.
Well, it's not a non-agenda item because it's a warrant. It's
a warrant
It's a
article.
warrant article.
We'll get
So it's
there.
under the,
Petition discussion.
yep.
On Article 12, I guess I'll make a motion that we approve it as written. I understand there is usually the concern, like we ran into with another property, about what it means by maintenance. But because of, I would be in support of it because of, if we're accepting the road, we should accept the drainage at the same time. And we should have done that before.
So we have a motion.
I'll
Second.
second.
In this case, when it comes time to vote at the fire station, I will be voting against this article. However, the article before us now is whether to put it on the warrant and then allow the people to vote on it, which I do favor.
Okay.
Oh. Interesting.
Like
But you
that?
didn't want to let people vote on the Greenfield?
Oh, I think that it was, yeah, thank you for letting me make the distinction. On the Greenfield one, I think the article was simply wrong. We should be referring to the 2003 or deferring and reaffirming the 2003 rather than expanding.
Okay.
That was my vote. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Well, can I just ask a quick question?
Okay.
Real quick. What is our liability that we'll have with this particular one over, if we don't, I don't remember us putting an item in the budget this year to go ahead and fix the particularly bad hole over there. What is the liability that the town picks up by accepting that? A troubled piece of land. I don't know. Do you have an opinion about that? As far as liability goes, we're picking up a maintenance of a piece of land that if it caves a lot, it could affect a property or house. If they say, oh, the town isn't acting fast enough and now you guys own it, how much of a big woe is that for us? The town.
Well, I don't know the property per se, and I don't know what needs to be done to fix it, but I assume it's within the budget of Highway Department to deal with whatever is going to happen in the next cycle. Is that accurate or?
There are some,
So, I mean, it is a project to fix it. And one of the reasons why town ownership over HOA ownership is appealing is that we're just eligible for grant funding for these sorts of projects that an HOA isn't. And so, we'd be applying for a grant to fix this.
But liability if the house caves in.
there's a report
Maybe
available on the
that's too
town
far.
website that says that is not going to happen anytime
Soon.
soon. There's erosion that is undesirable, and it diminishes the water quality of McGonagall River, which, to some of us feels very urgent. But it is not an emergency for anybody.
It's not like a harm to people or property emergency.
And this was a finalist for a grant through the Maine Natural Resources program. But the problem that they had with it was that since it's not owned by the town, it was owned by a private entity, that they didn't feel it could be guaranteed to be conserved as a natural area forever. There is also a public benefit to this one. It's a very large parcel. There's a stream with high quality brook trout habitat and a little path that people will be able to access forever. So that's the reason that's appealing for grant.
Right. Yeah, I was
funding.
just wondering what the liability was.
Yeah, no, it's a reasonable question. If we did nothing about it, it will be something the town has to deal with eventually.
So.
Sorry about interrupting the book. I
No,
just
no,
wanted to
that's
ask
okay.
that question
So
beforehand.
coming back to the draft warrant,
I
are
think
there
we have
any
to,
other?
did we actually vote or?
No, we had not. I interrupted it.
some of us got our hands up and some of us.
Oh, yeah,
But
and I had my hand up to question.
Okay.
Right.
So so this is the vote on putting Article 12. All those in favor? Okay, 5-0-0.
So as a matter of deciding what to cover next, we could approve Articles 1 through 10 since we've pretty much glossed over them, or we could take up the petitions. We should let these good folks know at what point we are going to take up those. They don't have an article number, so if we take the articles up in order, we won't take them up at all. So let's specify.
Well, unless there's anything else in particular that you want to pull out, the rest of the warrant would stand. These are all things that we've discussed, had public
Yeah.
hearings on.
I mean, I would vote that we approve Articles 1 through 23. I mean, well, except for that, I didn't want to do 23, but I guess,
Well, you can make the motion
Yeah.
to vote against it.
well,
Yeah, I
Do we-
have a note to add, not changing any numbers, but in the budget, in the Articles 21 and 22, I think it would add some transparency and clarity if we had a note after Article 21 that says.
You were looking for the
Article
percent
22.
increase? Is that what you're
Yes,
looking for?
thank you. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Articles 21 and 22 say this is our expense, this is our revenue, but there is no note that says the total cost. Well, the phrasing is
oh, like the net impact to taxpayers?
exactly the combined effect of Articles 21 and 22 would be to increase the amount of expenditures funded by property taxes by X% over the previous year. And X% was at one time 8.89%, but I think we've got it down to 8.76%.
Is that something that we generally include in the budget?
No, but you can.
We can.
Yeah, as year after year, we just copy the language of the previous warrant, and I think this would be very helpful to insert now so that it would be picked up year after year to have
I do think the
percentage.
basic thing is that net impact to taxpayers is
Yes.
I
central.
like the 8.6%, that which we can affect.
8.76% was my.
Where'd you two?
Was my arithmetic.
And then the number to be raised by taxes, like not just the percentage, but.
Well, people understand a percent increase. Probably, if they said, oh, it's, I don't know, whatever it is this year, 13 million or whatever, they wouldn't remember what it was necessarily last
Well, they
year.
have a responsibility to watch every single one of our select board meetings. And
Thank you very much, but I think giving them a reasonable amount, unless
I
you
think
want.
we could put the number and the percentage, and they can choose a number that they like the most or don't like.
Okay, so we have a motion.
To add that language to the note after Article 22.
To show the percent increase. I would second that.
Okay.
To show the net impact to taxpayers and the associated percentage increase.
Yes.
Right, and if it's helpful, the language that I've sketched out here is the combined effect of Articles 21 and 22 would be to increase the amount of expenditures funded by property taxes by 8.76% over the previous year.
Okay.
As long as that gets a finance department stamp of,
I hope somebody
Approval.
checks. I did it 3 times, but
just in terms of the wording.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion on the amended note. And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anita, I'm sorry, you had your hand up. Was that relevant to this particular article? Okay.
You're voting on the group of articles, right?
We're voting on the entire warrant without, until we take the petitions under consideration, but this is.
Article 18.
You got to turn on your microphone.
Article 18 regarding
authorizing the select board to dispose of tax acquired property, et cetera. It appears that you continue to include the verbiage that we've used for quite a number of years regarding the Apollo Tannery property. And my understanding is that the town has already voted to retain ownership of that property. And so I don't understand why that verbiage is in there. It's like a holdover from previous years. It doesn't seem like it's relevant to the present reality of that the ownership of that property.
Yeah, good point.
Has that just gotten carried over kind of as boilerplate at this point?
Yes,
And could
yeah.
we strike that article
Absolutely.
without there being any repercussions to that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Anita, for bringing that to our attention.
Bill has a comment about that.
Mhm.
This has been the subject of a lot of contention over the years. So the Article 18 is a standard article about disposing of tax acquired property. The Apollo property is tax acquired. So the reason the exception was in there is because in the past, there was significant voter support. In the past, there was significant voter support to exclude the ability of the select board to sell the Apollo property. So that's why it's in there.
But now that there's a vote to keep it,
Not in this warrant.
That's advisory.
not on this
That
warrant,
was an
but,
advisory vote. That
advisory.
wasn't,
so what are you saying?
Keep it as it is.
We need to keep it.
what
If
this-
you're afraid that the select board next year may say, whoo, look at that, no
Sell it.
exclusion, we're going to sell the tannery, and that they could politically survive or would be motivated to do such a thing, then you could leave it in. But we have a number of tax acquired properties that the town owns, any number of which the select board could technically sell, but we do not highlight them every year because we are not afraid that the select board may try to sell, the public landing. So if we still feel that there's a risk, I think there isn't, and that any proposal to sell the tannery would be viewed similarly as the proposal to sell any other piece of property, and that there would be significant public input and discussion. But if you want to be better safe than sorry, we could leave it.
Yep, so we'll keep it.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second. All the-
To what? Which one are we?
To approve
The
the warrant with the note suggested
the
by
total
Ken.
warrant
To
with
approve
that
the
one.
total warrant with the note on the articles regarding the budget.
21 and 22.
Did you say you need a second, or that was moved and seconded?
We have a second. All those in favor?
The public wants to.
Okay. Okay, we need to move this
Clarification
along.
now, is the original Apollo Tannery language going to stay the same?
Yes.
It's
That's what
gonna
you're
stay the
voting,
same.
right?
Yeah, yes, it'll stay the
Yes.
same.
Okay,
Forever.
forever, never.
Oh, interesting. One change we do need to make, I don't know, maybe I don't know Chris's middle name, but I'm not Christopher S. Nolan. That's a different Chris Nolan.
Does he own property on Main Street?
He very well may. I don't know what his
You can
middle
put that
initial
S
is.
over in my name if you want, because
I
I
have
do
an S
have
in
an
mine.
S in the middle.
Maybe that's what it is. It's Christopher J. For correction.
Does anybody want their, really want their middle initial on here?
It doesn't need to be.
No.
Okay.
All right, now we've moved to what everybody's been
Did we
so
vote?
looking forward to.
We didn't vote on that yet.
Did we vote? All those
Oh,
in
we
favor?
did, yes, but it
All
was a
those in
little,
favor? Thank you. 500.
there was a comment in the middle of the vote, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, again.
Okay. So we have before us two petitions, which we will take up in order to see whether they will be included on the warrant.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and include the language of the petition on the warrant if I can.
Which
The
one?
language on of the petition for, I think we're doing the paid parking right now, or the police?
The paid parking.
Paid parking, I'll make the motion to include paid parking on the ballot as it was written on the petition and signed by a large portion of the people in town.
I will second that.
Discussion?
Any
I
discussion?
would just, I don't, well, there's a couple things. I would disagree with large portion of the people in town. 570 is a lot of people, but it's not a large portion of the
I didn't know the
population.
exact number. I knew it was over 500.
A large portion to me would be a majority of several thousand. I mean, to me, this is a bad plan to put this on the ballot. It doesn't actually have the weight based on legal advice on this one. It's asking to overturn a program that was established by the town through statute. This petition doesn't actually have the process doesn't allow it to revoke a program. So it's murking water, and I understand a lot of input has been had of people saying they want to have some kind of vote on paid parking, but that's sort of not the way it works. And to me, based on legal advice and other conversations, just in general, I don't think that I don't think this is a vote that works on the warrant.
Allison?
Yeah, I think this one has been very clear that it's not the process. We have had parallel processes where the select board, the budget committee, the town voters, by virtue of voting on the budget, including revenue items, are all going through a process where there is a revenue item associated with paid parking. We have made decisions about zoning ordinances and parking requirements based on this. And to me, it's very similar to the time that I wanted to put it out to voters, whether Central Street would be one way or not. I was told at the beginning when we did this pilot project, Central Street was made one way to answer the questions, to answer the concerns of a bunch of residents. And then when we actually, because none of us at the time that were here felt like we wanted to make that decision ourselves, we wanted to put it out to voters and let them decide. And we got a whole lecture about how there are certain things that cannot be put out to voters, and there's a reason for that. And that traffic and parking is one of those things that municipal officers decide. And so in addition to that, there was no fiscal impact to the Central Street one, but with this, the paid parking, there is a fiscal impact that would undo like a parallel process that has had significant public input. So I think putting this out to voters would just be a confusing thing to them. And I thought Bill summarized it very thoroughly in the memos, and that this is just a black and white case of something that doesn't go out to voters.
I feel similarly, and what's been challenging with this discussion on so many levels. First, the allegation that we're not paying attention because we haven't been able to pay attention to much else because of the level of discussion. And 577 voters, we have 4,101 active registered voters in town. So it's not even a quarter, which is not to minimize the value of each signature. However, what troubles me the most about the way this discussion has unfolded has been it is based so largely on individuals expressing their that they are going to be personally inconvenienced, or that the character of town will be irreparably changed from the quaint, charming place that we all know and love. And both of those I do not find as substantial reasons for us to make a legislative decision, which lies with everyone, with all the voters in town. Being faced with significant budget challenges, if anyone's paid attention to that part of the discussion. Solutions, we are looking for solutions. This is a solution. The suggestion that we are greedy I will not accept that from any quarter, because we are making our best attempt to offset costs that will be carried entirely by taxpayers. This is a chance to offload some of those costs, and with the hope that we can keep the tax burden rather than exploding, maybe minimize the increase in the tax burden, and also to maintain the vibrancy of a diverse economic base in our population. And these are the things that come up for me. I am willing to, Holly's gone to great lengths to make it very palatable to Camden residents. And I think that it is time for people to just accept that this is something that we need to do. So I will be voting in favor of, or I'm opposed to this appearing on the warrant.
Thought you were done, sorry.
I am now done. Thank you.
Overall, I wish I had the words to convince my colleagues to let the people in town have a voice in the matter. I wonder if there is compelling opposite legal advice. Had the question been, Bill, would you let us know why we should go ahead and support the citizens in their petition and put it on the ballot? I would have liked to have seen what that might have been, but I'm not the person who asked you to write something. We have a requirement to listen, and the charter states we should put reasonable petitions on the ballot. I'm paraphrasing. And so we had a requirement that 10% of the people who voted in the last gubernatorial election is what is the requirement for a petition, which at that point would be somewhere around 400 signatures. In the end, they could have probably had more signatures if that would have made you happier. But this right now stands as something that was done legally. And what are we afraid of by saying people in town who vote, would you like to have paid parking or not? Why are we afraid of maybe hearing that we didn't make a decision that the town was in favor of back in December? We voted on the dam. I was a fan of keeping the dam, but we still let people vote on it. And so now we've got a fiscal responsibility to support that vote. At least people had an opportunity to say what they wanted. We should not take that away from them. Give them the opportunity to state at the ballot what they want. It is an unfortunate thing about democracy where, yes, even if the minority is large compared to the majority number, that yes, half the people maybe don't get what they want. That is true. That's a democracy. There are winners and unfortunately losers. However, I still think we should let the people have a vote, and so we know which way do they want to go? That's why I think it should be still on the ballot. They've met the legal requirement. I think it's important for us to really know our job is to listen and do what the majority of the people want. When we got elected to the select board, it's often said, oh, you got to remember you represent all the people. You don't just represent maybe that small number of people that voted for you. We got to, and if we give people, if we say, no, you can't have a voice because you voted for us, and now I'm the autocratic person that's going to go ahead and say one way or the other, on something that is a divisive issue, we should give them the opportunity to do what they legally went ahead and asked us to do.
Well, I think you're overstating using the word autocratic when we are actually operating within the charter and home rule and the law. So we are not behaving in a way that is outside of the practice. I can appreciate your sentiment, but at the same time, I reject that characterization because that is not, when we are acting under advice of legal counsel and within the parameters of Maine law and our town charter, that to me does not fit the definition of being autocratic.
I would like,
Ken?
well, at the end, I think Bill should respond to,
Yeah, I'd like to hear.
but let's let Ken, I agree, let's let Ken go first.
Where do I start? First, thank you, Chris. That's very, very well said, and I totally agree with Chris. Just to remind us all that the charter says that if the conditions are met, that is, you get 10%, whatever the magic number is, the select board shall insert that particular article in the next warrant issued or shall call a special town meeting for its consideration. That is clear and unambiguous. The petition asks to see if the town will vote to direct the select board to eliminate the paid parking program in Camden and to remove all parking meter kiosks. The petition is also clear and unambiguous. It was clearly prepared with legal advice. To honor our obligations under the town charter and to respect the rights of our fellow citizens, to live up to the standards of democracy, even in or especially in our small town, and to protect the best interests of the people of Camden, we must honor this petition. We should not deny the citizens' right to vote. Our citizens are clamoring for it. And if I may make a historical reference, 250 years ago, we fought a revolution. In our Declaration of Independence, one of the central issues was to assert our right to petition. It seems wrong that we need to fight so hard to protect that right today. But we should not deny the people's right to vote. They have done everything correctly. They read the charter, they got the petition, they wrote a clear petition, and they have every right to expect, and they do expect that we honor that petition and honor their right to vote on a very important topic in Camden.
Allison.
No, I think that it's quite an allegation to say that Bill's legal advice was dependent on direction that he received from somebody based on his idea or somebody thinking what the majority of the select board is thinking this, so let's get Bill to say this. There have been so many times since I've been on the select board that I've seen Bill give us answers that the entire select board did not want to get. That is not how it's, and in fact, many times I've said, well, you know what, maybe we can find somebody else to say something different. And I just think that the path of least resistance, I don't think Bill really wants to have to sit here and be here at the meetings anyway. It's really creating more, it would have been an easier path, I'm imagining, for Bill if he could just say, yeah, just put him on. That's a lot less work for Bill. So I would be interested in, if we were to ask you that question, Bill, find us a way that you recommend putting this on, how would your answer change or not change? And could you maybe summarize the reasons for the advice that you've given? Which, the advice differed between the two petitions that we have also.
Well, I'm just going to focus on the parking
Yeah.
issue, but it doesn't matter how you ask the question. My memo is, as it is, it's really not a difficult question for a lawyer to answer. This one's very straightforward in terms of any municipal attorney.
And this is why Susan, I thought, took the extraordinary step
I want to eat this thing.
of reaching out to MMA. And when I heard that, I thought, oh, well, that's a little bit kind of like she was trying to go above Bill's head. Susan pushed back on this more than I felt was actually reasonable, like as if almost, not that you didn't trust Bill, but you were like, I'm going to ask MMA. And they gave a very similar response.
Sure.
This wasn't
Well, that's not surprising. I've been around a while. I mean,
Yeah.
I do understand how these things work, but just a couple thoughts, the right to vote of the citizenry. Well, the select board can't pass a zoning ordinance any more than the town meeting can pass a safety issue or a parking issue. It's just not the way the state of Maine is set up, who has authority. So I realize it feels maybe different for the legislative act to be solely in the realm of the select board, but that's how home rule works, and it's very clear. And no, I can't suggest that you put a warrant article that's both unlawful and unenforceable on the warrant. So that's my job. And my memo speaks to that fairly straightforwardly, because this frankly was not a difficult question from the legal perspective. When I say difficult, I mean it wasn't close.
Yeah, I mean, that's the piece that I come back to is even if this goes on the ballot, even if it's on the warrant, there's nothing, it's not a legally, there isn't the power. So it's not the process, it's not a proper process. And the argument that people haven't had a voice, this goes back, we hear this so many times of various things, if the people didn't have a voice. Well, there have been workshops, there have been public sessions, there have been meetings with business owners and residents, there has been feedback at select board meetings, we've modified the program, so the idea that the people of Camden haven't had a voice is, I'm not going to say laughable, but it doesn't hold water, because there have been plenty of opportunities for people, and so the program has been modified. We've added a permit. We're doing, it's in work, but really I just come back to, it's a pretty straightforward piece on this, that even if this went on the ballot, and I don't actually think it would pass, but there would be no legally binding thing for the town to do even if it passed.
And if it were, then it would conflict with another thing we're putting out to voters, which includes revenue from paid parking program.
Yeah, it conflicts with several things.
How
and
you
so
would
it's
deal with
just-
that.
That's the nature. And, I also, I understand that a lot of people signed that petition. People, even in one of the supporters of this claimed, he said that people who were in favor of paid parking had signed people sign petitions. That doesn't mean, that's not a given indication that 577 people are of one mind. And so for me, it's just like, no, this should not be on the ballot for very clear legal reasons. And I do also just object to the suggestion that there was some kind of coercion of legal counsel. I think Bill has a pretty rock solid record with the town of being a very level-headed counselor on all sides.
Well, that's good to know that he was asked to provide his opinion of whether this should or should not, as compared to tell us why it should not. That's good to know, and I appreciate that. And I'll take you all at your word that was what happened, and that was the case. I'm still a proponent of people being able to express their opinion through the ballot. And if there was a way that this is a non-binding, but I don't know the proper word, but effectively a survey.
Well, in essence,
Could we
it
do
is
that because
non-binding.
it's non-binding? But can we put it on there and people understand that it's non-binding?
it's
But
not-
then we would know.
But the phrasing of this is not an advisory, it's not like even the police or the various questions we've had on, we talked about the tannery a little while ago. It's not a sort of, do you think that it is an action, call to action that that a petition process doesn't allow for.
By using the word direct to
And to
direct
get rid
the select
of the
board
machines
to
to take
eliminate
these
the
following
paid parking
steps.
program.
And with very
It's a
incomplete
very different
information.
thing than, are you in favor of a paid parking program or are you opposed? So it's actually calling for direct actions that can't be
Enforced.
And it also doesn't say that, in terms of the fiscal note, when we ask people to vote, we have a responsibility to help them be an informed voter. And so you can ask people a lot of things and they, with incomplete information, will make one decision, and with more complete information will make another decision. So we can't ask them this without simultaneously asking them if they're okay with doing away with the recommendations of the budget committee, which was to increase it even, or to not follow along with the downtown master plan, or to just simply this year, the revenue projections. So we have to ask them if we really wanted to just know exactly how everybody feels about this, then we would ask a question that was more complete.
I sort of feel like we're not
we
going to
have
convince each other.
Right, should we,
Well,
but there's
Right.
probably members of the public that might want to
Right.
speak.
We'll take a few comments from the public. This issue has been discussed and discussed. We're talking specifically about whether or not it makes it onto the warrant.
It's not about the merits of paid
Not
parking
about the merits of paid
or how the
parking,
program
which
will
has
work. It's
been-
literally just whether or not we can put this on the warrant. That's what we're talking about.
Okay. On this petition, okay, and just a question, it's a legal question for Bill, okay? Is it within the power of the next select board to get rid of paid parking in the kiosk within the town?
Yes, and that's an important part of recognizing that the political process is the method that the state legislature has determined is the way to deal with parking, safety, and all of those issues under Section 309 of Title 30A. It's you run your candidates and you run on a platform, and that's how this works. You can't just change the legislative process because somebody filed a petition. So I'm a big fan of the process because I've been around it for a long time. And as long as you have the patience and you have the support politically within a community to have candidates run that supports your position, that's how things change, instead of a somewhat emotionally comfortable or supportive petition like this that is just unlawful. So if folks have the patience and they run the candidates, that's how things change.
Betsy?
I'm Betsy Perry. I've been a resident of Camden for 31 years, and I've in the Antiques at 10 mechanic since it's been around. And there are 20 of us who work there as antique dealers, only 5 of which live in Camden. And I've found as business owners or workers, that's very common. And I'm speaking for a lot of the business people in Camden, because there are many people who are very upset that the parking situation, and they're going to have to be paying for parking that they aren't. So I just have a few questions. One, I realized that $150,000 is being put as revenue which is a lot less than the budget committee recommended, which I think is a good thing. And I'm just wondering where this number came from, what sort of research was done to get that figure.
So we have a model where we can include different parameters of the program, and it will give us estimated revenue.
After the expenses. So that's where that
Yes.
$150,000, that's not the total revenue expected from parking sales. It's the net
It's what we felt
revenue, a conservative net revenue estimate after all of the startup costs of the kiosks, et cetera.
Well, that's interesting because last week you said you had no idea what the expenses were. So what are the expenses that you didn't know last week, 2 weeks ago?
Betsy, I don't believe that that was said.
I listened again today to say, and you said you didn't know.
I said.
No, you didn't. Audra said.
I did. I said
Ray
off-
asked and
I said off the
Audra
top of my
said.
head. And I would say it again because I don't want to give the exact number when I don't have it sitting right in front of me. But I know that it's the purchase of the kiosks and it's the enforcement staff as well as the software.
Okay, because given, I know, I mean, I think, I'm just speaking for the townspeople who I think would be more sympathetic for this if they understood the financial situation the town is in. But 150,000 doesn't seem that much for the kind of difficulty I think this is going to present to a lot of people in the town.
The projected revenue from the model that was chosen was around, what was it, 350,000?
Right, yeah.
Which again is, the goal of that is to be conservative. Budget committee recommended one that was going to be around 800 and.
Right, which, yeah, I don't think is, yeah.
I know you wouldn't like that. but
I
that
mean,
would be a
listening it
significant-
in, the 2 weeks that it was, we got so many customers who were just like.
But
going,
every single parking spot
So
was still
again,
filled.
what?
we're
The
not,
parking spots were
guys.
filled.
Right, but they were totally confused, totally angry.
Oh,
And
wow.
some of these people don't come back. The tourists don't come back when
but
things like
tonight
that.
we're not getting into the minutia of paid parking. That conversation has been. We're really
Okay,
just-
I'm just saying, I think there's a little naivete about the effect it's going to have on the town and the businesses.
I
So,
understand.
And
but
I'd say,
disagree with
Betsy, that none of you should have been parking in the downtown anyway, because there's a 2-hour limit. All of you should have been parking.
I'm not talking about me.
I'm-
I'm talking about the people that come.
No, I'm
to our
talking, you said there's 20
businesses.
people who work there, right?
Right.
And not all of them live in Camden, so they're not going to get the resident discount.
We only have 2 people parking at a time.
I-
And we have.
I understand, but what I'm saying is a lot of the problem that this is solving for is the fact that we have a lot of employees of businesses in the downtown that park in the downtown and take up spots that your customers need to be parking in. And they don't turn over. They shuffle whenever they can. They send out text alerts to everybody when they see Spencer coming around and they shuffle. They
We've
should
never-
be parking
Again.
outside of the downtown. So anyway, yeah, it's the minutia of the program, but
mean,
I'm just
and
saying, I
we're
think
we're
we'd
gonna
love to
know.
come and talk to you more about it. Please come and talk to Holly and I sometime. We would be
Or come
thrilled.
talk to us because we have the people coming and talking to us all the time. And
You do-
look at what Rockland's done. They have now parking spaces in the new year for people who are not from Rockland and who will get parking spaces.
They
Well,
have to
there's plenty of
purchase
mill parking
Yeah,
for
but it's
free,
very
too.
modest. And they don't have parking on Sundays.
Can,
And moving towards some, that is part of the long-term plan, is looking for opportunities for that kind of
It's-
permit parking. And there has been significant research into how this affects businesses, and it has not been shown to be a decrease in business traffic, but that is all. I know you don't think that we should be talking about paid parking at all, but sometimes when
It's
people
not that
come
it's just
to talk
that
about paid
these
parking-
conversations have been had. The program is going to be evolving and we will be able to adapt it once we have data. The question right now is not to spend everyone in town could spend hours. coming
Right, but
up
you
with
all are
pros and-
treating this as a market study and it's our businesses that are going to be
And
hurt.
many of your colleagues have participated in the
That is
program.
true.
and many of them would like more. They would like us to charge more for parking. So this
Oh,
is,
Tell me who they are.
watch
So
the
good.
meetings.
Okay, good. Well, I have been, so.
This,
okay.
but what we're trying to get tonight is a final decision. And again, I sort of feel
Well,
like
you've made your
everyone
decision.
who is probably in the room isn't going to be convinced by anybody else tonight at this stage because we have talked about it so much.
Okay.
I appreciate your
Well,
impact, and
thank you for you all.
I love all of your vendor partners.
Thank you.
And feel free to reach out with more of this input on email, or, I mean, I'd be happy to talk to you more about it, because I think there is an eagerness to try to incorporate feedback. And the last thing anybody would want is to see business decrease in Camden. That would be a disaster.
Yeah,
That would need
we've
to be
lost the
corrected.
Canadians. We may, you know,
Right.
we've got lots going against us anyway, so.
Canadians aren't staying away because of the parking meters.
not our
Let's just be
I'm not
really
talking
clear
about
about that.
All right.
You're very defensive. I am
Okay.
not talking about.
I think the notion that people are not coming to Camden because they might have to pay for parking is being so wildly overstated that it isn't even.
A lot of people are actually going to stop in
That's-
Camden because they can find a parking spot.
Yeah.
Can I have like 2 or 3 minutes?
Yes, sir.
My name's Dennis Pauls. A couple of you here know me, most of you don't. I live on Union Street. I've been moved here to Camden in Maine 30 years ago. I wanted to thank Ken and Chris for their comments earlier. I don't like the parking program, but it's a done deal. I get that. I get the legal legislative aspects of it. And I think you've already hit on what my point for being here tonight was going to be, which is ever since the thing started, I keep thinking, is this really making money for the town? Is this really helping cut my taxes or keep my property taxes from going up? So I think it's really important if you want buy-in from more people. I did sign that petition. I mean, I could be convinced otherwise, particularly if you can show me after a full season that's coming up at the end of the season in the fall or the winter, to be able to present a complete and robust report on what the revenues that were brought in were, and particularly the sources of those, because I know I'm sure you can track how much that was resident, parking fees, and then non-residents. And if you need some help, I spent the early part of my career in doing cost accounting. I'm happy to help anybody figure out all the directs and indirect costs associated with something like this, because I can assure you it's not just the kiosks themselves and labor that goes into enforcement. So anyway, I just think that's really important. If you want people to calm down about this at all, some people are never going to calm down about it, but a lot of us will if we come to understand that it really and truly is helping to keep our property taxes down. Again, thanks to you too. Thank you for your comments earlier.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Jim.
Jim Elliott. I live on Pearl Street, and I thought the arguments that Chris O, Allison, and Susan made for paid parking were good. And I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air on it, but I thought I was really persuaded by Chris and Ken's arguments, because it's really not about the substance of the program, it's about the process. And I do disagree with Chris, though. I think that 500 people is a really substantial number of people that signed that petition, 570, whatever the number was, and especially at this time of the year. When there's a lot of people, snowbirds aren't here and families take vacations. But I think there is a way of, I'm sure Bill's correct, that a future board could change the program, could abandon the program. That's what they did in Concord, Massachusetts. They had a paid parking program, and after a couple of years, they got rid of it, decided that the cost benefit wasn't there. If a future board could do it, this board could do it. And so it's really a question of, who are you listening to? And it's not don't box yourself in. If 572 people want some say in this, I'm sure there's a lot more that want some say in it. And I'm sure some people signed that petition not because they oppose paid parking, but because they never had that say, that it was something that wasn't put before the voters, and they felt it was an important issue that the whole town should have had an opportunity to address. So I know there's probably a way with a smart lawyer and a smart town manager for you to get this before the voters in some form, whether it's an advisory thing or you can rework it, or you can call a special town meeting. And it might take 15 hours, but I'm sure the voters could come up with something. That wouldn't be my preference. My preference would be for you to actually deal with it and get it before the voters in some form for them to consider. So I implore you to really think about the process, not your personal positions. You're not a town council, you're a board of selectmen, you're like trustees, and the real municipal authority is the voters. It's the town meeting. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Oh, the gentleman in the back had his hand up first.
Before I get up there, I am not a Camden resident, I'm a Rockport resident, but I'm a candidate for the district, and I fill out the seats.
Sure.
Sure.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chris and Ken. I really appreciated what you were saying. What elected officials,
Name and
sorry,
microphone.
I'm Corey Raymond. I'm a Republican candidate for House of Representatives, District 41, which is Camden Rockport. So what elected officials, which would be the board, often forget is that you guys were elected by the people. And the petition was sent around legally. These people, the townspeople, worked really hard to get this in front of all these voters to sign. And I just feel like not following the petition, getting in front of the voter, is disenfranchising them. Yes, you may think that it's only 500 some odd people, but some of those 500 some odd people voted for you three who are against putting on the petition. No, sorry, on the ballot. I'm just tired of elected officials not being held accountable or taking care of their representatives or their constituents that represented them. You guys work for the town people. He works for you. Of course, he's gonna do what he in his language is best for you guys. But you guys have to do what's best for the people of Camden. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a couple more comments and then we're going to go down to a vote. We've got another few things to get done tonight.
Hi, guys. My name is Stuart Smith. I'm not trying to convince anybody of how they want to vote on these two issues, but I would like to just refer to the town of Camden's charter. And if you've read section 103, that deals petitions, citizens, initiatives, and referendums. So petitions for articles on the warrant, any qualified voter may request the select board place an article on the warrant and shall present the substance of the article in written form, which we have done in both cases. If the request is denied by the select board on the written petition of a number of voters equal to at least 10% of the voters' number of votes cast in the town at the last gubernatorial election, the select board shall insert the particular article in the next warrant issued or shall call a special town meeting for its consideration. That's directly out of our charter. Item 2, under the same section 103, petitions, citizens, initiatives, and referendums. Item 2 is petition by voters if select board unreasonably refuses to place an article on the warrant. If the select board unreasonably refuses to call a town meeting, a notary public may call the meeting on the written petition of a number of voters equal to at least 10% of the number of votes cast in the town at the last gubernatorial election, but in no case less than 10 voters. All I'm asking is that you recognize the fact that 500 and some people are interested in voting on this. And this goes back to what Ken's talking about. So irregardless how you feel about the parking or how you feel about the police chief and our police department, in our charter, democratically, we have defined that the public should have the opportunity to vote. And by no means do I want to put you into the Trump side of things, but he seemed to like to control things in his own way. And please don't follow that tact. Give the voters the opportunity to vote on it. If they support it, it's great. If they don't support it, that's what it is. But you have to give in democracy the opportunity for people to vote. And I don't think it's fair to take that away, especially when it's defined in our charter, section 103, citizens initiatives and referendums. I'll just pass this.
So what's I find interesting here is that this rests on the word unreasonably. What does that even mean from our perspective? That
This has been
if
so
we,
well explained in these memos.
Yeah.
Maybe
No.
we should read Bill's memo out loud, because I know that sometimes the select board will see the packet and we'll read it, but the members of the public might not know where to find the packet, and that, but it's not like we're just
going to take the time to read
oblivious
this memo and the
to-
chart. We've
to that.
seen
It's
all
all
of
been very
this.
much addressed, but maybe before we respond, why don't we let other people, why don't we just go through the.
All right, let's go quickly. Go ahead, please.
Hi,
Yeah.
thank you. Tara Barker, homeowner, business owner in town. I'm not here to argue for or against any of this, but I think for a lot of people in town, this is the first experience of being very intimately involved in what a petition process looks like and how it works and maybe doesn't work. And for my own education, I'm really curious. I mean, I appreciate that Stuart just read the language from the town charter. If I was to initiate a petition and that's what I was referring to, I wouldn't know that I also needed to become an expert on the legality at both the municipal and state level of what I was asking. And where does that burden lie? If the citizens want to bring a petition and they think they've crafted appropriate language, at what point do they need to be told by the town attorney or the select board that this would be unenforceable or unenactable, even if it were to pass? Because I think that that burden is pretty heavy. And if it really is on the citizens, we all need to know very clearly that that's part of the process, whether it's laid out in the town charter or somewhere else that people go to find out how to successfully run through this petition process. And I'm also curious from a state standpoint and the town charter, is there legally a carve out that if citizens bring a petition forward that they think meets all the criteria, but it turns out that, you know, in this case, and I'm not disputing at all that the select board has the authority to make these decisions without bringing them to a vote, but where is there the exception that is it considered an unreasonable petition and that's why it doesn't get put on the warrant? Or is there a carve out that if there's language somewhere in the petition that would be unenforceable? I just feel like the information that citizens needed to understand why this would not get put on the warrant was not made evident to anyone early enough in the process for them to make changes to the language that they used. And I also am just curious as to why clearly a lot of people want to talk about this. Why isn't there a special town meeting instead of putting it on the warrant so at least more people can have their voices heard?
Well, interestingly, you know, every time that this was discussed, and your question's well stated, every time it was discussed, and that's been multiple times over the past year, the purview of the select board to be the ones to make this decision has been discussed. So,
No,
so let me
I
finish,
will.
Chris.
I need a correction in that, though.
But Bill also advised them at the beginning, like saying that when they
Yeah.
looked at the warrant, that it wasn't,
So the
there was back
legal,
and
so
forth about
the,
it being
so
a
the
non-petitionable
legality
item.
around the petition process is what's being focused on by the petitioners, to the exclusion of the legality around the legislative process that vests that power with the select board. So the two things are both true, that we have the power to make these kinds of decisions, and you all have the power to bring petitions before us. But the reality is that the petition itself and the result of the petition is something that will then come back to us, or to whatever the board is constituted, however the board is constituted after the election.
But I feel like she's asking about the process. And so when somebody starts to circulate a petition, they come to the town and they go through that process. And sometimes they could, in this particular case, they were advised that this would be the result.
I didn't know that.
And so it isn't just that somebody starts circulating without, and maybe Bill could probably say this more succinctly, but when they, you get the pieces of paper that go around everywhere and that people start circulating a petition, can you talk about, it would be very unfair just to completely leave everybody in the dark until the end and be like, oh, okay.
And
Sorry.
for those of us who are more audience members than actual petitioners,
Right.
that's how it's looking, because we don't know.
This was explained many times for this particular item.
On this particular item, that was the one correction, I'm sorry, Susan, to interrupt, that I wanted to make. I think it was before you, in your interim period, not in the select board, that actually during the first parking meeting that I was part of, I was actually told by the town manager that this would be something people would vote on. So I just wanted to, it's a small correction, because every other time after that.
She made a mistake and she
I made
explained it.
I made a mistake, Chris. Yep, I made a mistake.
That's
And-
correct. I
and
was just-
Bill- And Bill corrected me. I went to the town attorney and my mistake was corrected.
Yeah.
So
that
yes, Chris, I made a mistake.
Excuse me. What I was just doing is I was just trying to help Susan by correcting her
Well, I
from
appreciate the
stating.
help, but it doesn't stand if it was incorrect to start with, so we
excuse
don't
me.
need to.
Yes, I was
we don't need
incorrect.
to Dwell on it.
No,
But
let's,
you
I
said
can
every
say it as
time.
many times as Chris needs to hear it, because
Right.
he's brought this up many times over the past year.
That
So
is
it's a moot
correct.
point because it's not true.
The point is that what you said was not true, Susan. You said every time this has been brought up, this was said as the public.
No, the
that
petition,
it's the
Chris,
select
the
board.
petition, and she was talking specifically about the petition.
I thought
And
she was talking
since
about
the
the parking.
petitioners, both petitioners came to Bill and asked him about the legality of it, and he gave him very clear advice that's very similar to what you have in your packet.
Okay, I thought that what Susan was referring to was the discussion about the parking.
No,
saying
she was
that-
speaking
when
specifically about the
when we have had,
petitions.
and in subsequent discussions, it has been part of the discussion that is our job as select board members to make those decisions. So,
And to this, and I think this is where Bill might have, the petition process can be a little confusing because it does sometimes seem like you can you can put something out there, and the statute does allow for that, but the statute also gives the select board the right to say that we don't have to put every petition on if it doesn't.
It does actually say that.
We have the right to say no, as I read it.
That's not what it says.
well,
in
again, it's the
in
word
chart.
unreasonable, which I don't, is very,
The word is shall. The word unreasonable is not in that part of it.
no, but
If you read the entire statute, not just the entry.
Yes.
There's so many instances of this where you think that when, I thought I could be on the personnel board and the select board at the same time because our charter didn't say anything different. And Bill was like, well, actually, that's a conflicting role based on this and this and this. You can't just look at one thing. It all lays on top of each other.
So Susan?
yes.
It might help if I just
Yes.
take a minute. So question process. I don't draft people's petitions for them. I shouldn't. They can get advice. They can decide what they want. I'm not going to, it would be inappropriate for me, who represents the town and the select board, to tell people what to put in their petitions, even though it may be more sanitary in the sense of what is eventually presented to the town. What I do, if requested specifically, is to give an initial impression of what someone else has drafted, only for the purpose of not being gotcha later on, but just to say, I've got grave concerns. I don't think this is going to work. Now, they can ignore that or not. I could be wrong. But that's how the process works, because I have to stay in my own lane. It might sound efficient to say, vet it with the town attorney before it goes out to voters. I think that's a disservice to petitioners, to the town, to me, so it shouldn't happen that way. Just for clarity, just for the last time, there's zero question that the charter authorizes the select board not to put a petition on the warrant. The language in the charter is right out of the statute. The statute's been interpreted by the courts in the past. It's not a question that this is something that's being done illegally. That is not the question at all. If the select board chooses not to put this proposed warrant article on the warrant. I'm not making that up. It's very clear. We've done this at least twice in Camden since I've been here, and maybe 3 times. The exact same thing we're talking about right now in terms of articles not going on the warrant because of a variety of reasons. The word unreasonably in the statute triggers the right to the petitioners to then go ahead and get a notary public to call a town meeting, a very awkward thing to do. And it only works if they've unreasonably denied. It's written in the negative in the statute. It's written in the negative in the charter. The charter mirrors that language. That's the process that we have. It's totally legit. And there's a reason why the word is unreasonable. It is a vague term. It's intended to be a vague term because the legislature had the smarts not to try to put a menu in a statute as to when you can and cannot refuse a proposed petition. It is what it is in the circumstances and the given day and the rationale. It's part of the rough and tumble of the political process. So the word unreasonably has the select board unreasonably refused to put the petition on the warrant is purposeful, and it's appropriate in my view to basically engage in all of this, because that's how the select board is informed. That's how the public is informed. That is the process.
Thank you. Ken?
Thank you. We should be delighted that the people of Camden are engaged enough to, by the hundreds, turn out to sign a petition because they want to vote. They simply want to vote. They want to vote on a very important, not one topic, but 2 topics. And we have been told several times, I have been told several times since becoming a select board member, that I am not the authority in town. The townspeople, this is a town meeting form of government, and the townspeople are the municipal authority. And so these petitions are very well worded that they will see if the town will vote to direct the select board. And now we've heard from both Bill Kelly and Jim Elliott that yes, it is possible for a future board, and why not this board, to change the program to follow the wishes of the people as expressed in the petition and in their vote. The people should get a vote. The bar is pretty high to deny a petition by the people, by the townspeople of Camden. By the hundreds have come out expecting, with every right, because our charter says it, that you will get the chance to vote. If you petition the select board to get on the ballot, you should get the right to vote. It is not our decision to deny whatever the issue is. We should be listening to the people. We should give them a chance to vote. They are begging for a chance to vote. By the hundreds, they have signed a petition to us with the high expectations that we will obey our charter and put these articles on the ballot. And that's our job tonight, is to not to dismiss the pleas and petitions of the people, not to deny their vote, but to approve their vote and put it on the ballot. Thank you.
Yeah, the Maine Municipal Association and the attorney says it's not a close call legally about whether this should be done or not, so.
Okay, Wendy Andresen. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Holly for all her hard work on this and her patience in dealing with the public, with the angry, outraged public. And to Chris and Ken for hanging tough on this situation. The fact remains that most of the people in Camden do not want paid parking. They just don't want it. You've done your best to sugarcoat it and make it all nice for the residents, hoping that they'll be sucked in because it's so much easier now for them because if they get this parking sticker. But the truth remains, I stood on this street corner for a few hours, and in that amount of time, I got 100 signatures. People were swarming me to be able to sign the petition. I had people coming to me from out of town saying, "Can I sign it? Can I sign it?" I said, no, you're not a Camden voter. You can't. Well, they were outraged by it. They weren't just saying, "Oh, can I?" They were really up in arms about it. And I could easily, if I had started earlier, I could easily have gotten 1,000 signatures. No problem. No problem at all. I probably could have gotten 2,000 signatures easily. And I think out of the whole time I was standing there getting signatures, there were 2 people who said, "Oh, I'm in favor of it. A good way to make money for the town." But there was only just a couple of people. And, I think it's horrifying that you're not letting us vote on this. I just can't believe that if the question hadn't been put in the beginning, like, how can we find out what citizens want and then find out a way to achieve that goal? It seems so simple to me. I don't understand why you don't get that. I know what it is. You don't want to be caught with egg on your faces when we have a new select board and this goes down. So our only other recourse now is to elect new members of the select board, polish up those resumes.
Call the question.
Oh, so moved.
I think we should call the question.
We've had a motion.
We have a motion.
We have a motion to go ahead and put this on the ballot. And it was seconded.
I would just like to assert that it would be unreasonable to dismiss this petition.
I will assert that it would be illegal to propose this petition. But we've called the question, so.
Why is it illegal?
Just like we can't, if people petition to that 16 Bayview has to be
Point
open
of
every
order,
day
we
of the
have called
week.
the
We're not
question.
gonna, there's certain things you don't petition for. We've talked about this endlessly.
And we've.
Are we
called-
gonna vote?
So the motion is to approve this for the warrant.
All those in favor? 2 in favor, opposed? The motion
Motion
fails.
fails.
As to the second petition regarding the police,
So my apologies, when I was updating the warrant, that was deleted from the packet, but the actual language of the petition is in there in Bill's memo.
so on this, we've discussed the possibility of having, we have the actual petition language, which is to see if the town will vote to direct the select board to employ town-operated police department and a full-time chief of police to manage the Camden Police Department and not to contract with the Knox County Sheriff's Department or any outside agency for the management of police services. And
Right.
then
Go ahead.
we have also in the packet the possibility of, because again, on advice of our council, where this would also be non-binding, And what we're trying to do is seek information from the community as to their preference around the future of law enforcement. There is a non-binding advisory-only referendum, which is in the packet, which we could choose to put on the warrant if we decide we prefer to go that route. Allison?
I think that the non-binding advisory-only referendum questions, as proposed in our packet, potentially create more problems than they solve. I think we're going to argue a lot about the meaning of this and whether people know what they're voting on or not. I would prefer to see us put the actual language of the petitioners. Last time, this is basically, I'm just going to reiterate what I said last time, of wanting to leave their language intact in an advisory question, but to include an explanatory note. I did write up a potential explanatory note. If it were, so this is what I would propose, that we leave their language intact, but an explanatory note going somewhere on that sheet of paper would say that this article was submitted via citizen petition. The select board has been advised by legal counsel that the language as drafted by the petitioners may conflict with the town charter and cannot be considered legally binding. However, the board has voted to place it on the warrant in its original form as an advisory question to provide a formal forum for voter expression on the matter. Unlike most articles, this language was not drafted or recommended by the select board. Voters should, and then this would be another part that I would like to add. Voters should also note that the FY27 budget, Article 22, already includes funding for a full-time police chief and maintains a local department with no plans to contract for services with Knox County. So to me, this would allow the language that they came up with to go out there as they wanted it to, and for us to seek some input through that, whatever is possible, but to also let voters know sort of the larger context.
Yeah, thank you for that.
The only
explanatory.
change I would probably make to your note would just say not drafted by the select board and leave it at that, instead of saying not drafted or recommended by the select board.
Sure.
I mean, I know both are
Yeah,
true, but it would make me feel more comfortable if it just said, yeah, we didn't write it. This is the way it was written. And having that, if you feel that the language will help people understand the short answer of this is not legally binding. But here's the question, put out what they said. That it's too bad we couldn't do the same sort of thing with a parking deal. That's nice language. Why can't we do that with a parking deal too?
Different kinds of questions.
I could belabor why I feel differently, largely because of the attorney advice that saw more of a middle ground and a gray area in this question than the other. And so.
But I agree with you. Those three other questions, they could get kind of convoluted or whatever. Just, this is plain enough. It's again, 500 or so people. You would hope they knew what they were signing when they were signing it and put it out there. We have other notes underneath other warrant articles. So this is no different
Since it's,
in its intent.
I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, Bill's probably going to come and be like, sorry, Allison,
Is that
explanatory notes such as this are illegal. I did not review this with Bill before suggesting it.
Right.
Oh.
Yep. Yep. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't have a warrant article that says one thing because that's the legally binding act, and the note is not binding.
Hold on. So we're talking about this whole other section of like when we put out, this isn't the warrant. This is an advisory question on a different piece of paper.
Oh, I understood you wanted to put their warrant article on a ballot as written with a note below it that you just read.
And by ballot, am I
Separate
using
piece
it?
of paper,
Okay.
which is what referendum articles need to go on. This doesn't get baked into the warrant. This is a separate ballot because it's a citizen referendum under section 2528. So my memo was focused on whether or not it would be appropriate or reasonable for the select board not to put that proposed warrant article, proposed petition on the warrant. And I've explained that in the memo. It's the threshold question of should it be placed on a ballot, which as you see, I've advised not to. But I think your proposal here to use their language on a warrant, on a ballot question as written, not saying advisory, but here's a citizen's petition.
I may have, do I need the word advisory? Oh, form as an advisory question. Is it, no, that is what I'm trying to do, is make it an advisory question. We're not trying to not make it an advisory question. Are you saying this is not okay?
Yep.
Okay,
How can she make it okay?
thank you.
Well, at the last meeting,
The
we
language
discussed
stands.
a referendum, non-binding advisory only referendum that broke out the three pieces of the proposed citizens petition. So that's what I suggest you do. I said that in my memo as a middle ground of trying to get feedback. I don't think you should pass you should put the language on the petition in the warrant for all the reasons I said, or on a ballot. I think that although we didn't discuss it last time, this is not a legal loophole. This is the charter. I referenced multiple provisions in the charter that when read together, in my opinion, clearly demonstrate that what this warrant article seeks to do is contrary to the charter, both specifically and as a whole, with the provisions that I referenced for both the select board authority and the town manager authority and under the town manager plan. So it's a little complicated, which is why the memo was as detailed as it was. So I think if I'm following you, Allison.
What I'm basically proposing to do is saying, we're choosing to do this against the advice of council and just trying to be extra transparent with it.
Yeah, but aren't you saying
So I
that,
guess I shouldn't have asked you, sorry. But
aren't you saying that you are proposing to put the proposed petition language on a ballot as written for a yes or no vote, and then put a note underneath it that you just described? Do I understand that correctly?
I'd be fine with putting the note on top, if that would help.
Yeah. Could,
Yes, but yes, I feel like,
right. And so if that's the proposal you're making, and you've asked me to comment on it, it is inconsistent to have a warrant article, strike that, a petition, a voter's petition on a ballot that says one thing, and then have the note try to contradict it, because the actual language that people will vote on will control. The note will not control. You can't just say in a note, this is advisory only. Way too confusing to the public.
I think this is less confusing to the public than a lot of things.
I'm just addressing what you've
But we can
presented,
do
not
what
other
you-
things.
But your suggested three-part question is okay because it bears no resemblance to what they asked us to put on the ballot? Is that what makes it okay?
I'm not going to argue with you about it. I think it says what it says, which broke out the three pieces in the proposed petition as clearly as I could. And it was designed in a way to get feedback about the three separate pieces. And again, it was just a proposed middle ground for me. You guys decide what you want to do with it.
Perhaps we should start at the first step, which would be to approve the warrant article as written, and then if that is not approved, see if there is some modified way. But I will move, I think we need to respect the people who wrote this petition and signed this petition. I think we need to respect their desire to vote. So I move that we put this particular article in the warrant as written.
I'll second that.
With any
no,
kind of-
with no explanatory note?
No note.
No,
Sorry.
no, nothing at all that explains.
No, just
That
that.
explains that
That it's a
it is
citizen's petition.
non-binding, that there is no obligation of the select board to act.
That's our first take.
On-
That's right.
Okay, let's vote on that.
So it'll be a standalone and it will have.
No explanation. just
it has
that.
Standalone,
no
zero explanation.
But does it say citizens petition? It's on a separate piece of paper.
No, it's part of the warrant.
No, it's not part of
No,
the
it's its
warrant.
own-
No,
it's
that
its
is the motion is to put it on the warrant.
But it's my understanding,
Can
Bill,
we
that
vote
it's
on that?
not,
We couldn't put it
I
on.
just want to be
They
clear.
made a motion and
Would it go on the warrant?
It would be it's a separate ballot item, piece of paper that has that question on it, yes or no?
Right.
That's
It's
how it
not
would be
on the
presented.
warrant.
and there's
It's
no.
part of the town meeting vote. It happens
The
to be a
packet,
ballot.
it's, you have multiple ballots. You have the school
Right,
district, you have
right.
elections, you have that.
And this would
but
be
on
a
separate one. It will
standalone-
not be item,
Right.
it will not be warrant item
24.
number 24.
Right.
It will be its own piece of paper.
But
That
this-
all it would have on it is to see if the town will blah, blah, blah.
It would reference that it's a voter's petition under Title 30A, Section 252A. Just, that's appropriate to alert the public as to the fact that this was presented
A
to
citizen
citizens, a
petition.
voter's petition.
Right. That's what I
But
was
nothing
asking.
about the binding
What
nature.
is the greatest risk if we were to include an explanatory note such as the one I described?
Or something simpler.
What is the risk? That we get sued? Somebody-
I personally think it's a disservice to have language in a binding
No,
yeah, let me finish. To have language that's going to be a binding referendum article and then have the note contradict it. I don't think that's a good idea.
but we can ask them, we have the freedom to ask non-binding questions and to come up with language.
Yes, if it's non-binding, but you are not allowed, when a citizen's petition is presented, aside from the fact that it's inconsistent, you're not allowed to comment on that in the note the way you're proposing. It's got to be as the citizens presented it.
And that's why we're compromising, because we're saying that it shouldn't go on the ballot at all. But
I know, that's what I drafted.
I just I think our only disagreement is that I don't feel that those questions are going to give the select board very meaningful input, because I think there's going to be confusion. And I think those questions will not satisfy the desires of the petitioners. If I were to hear from, it feels almost like a lose, not almost, it feels like a lose-lose, because I don't, but if the petitioners were like, yeah, this
I
is
just followed up
great,
on what
I
we,
would feel differently.
I followed up on what we discussed at the last meeting and drafted it
No, I
as
think
I
you
outlined
made a
it.
valiant attempt.
I guess there was some confusion that for some of us thinking that there would be the capacity for a explanatory note, at least to the language of that it isn't a binding.
Right.
Vote.
If we craft our own questions, we're allowed to include an explanatory note.
Absolutely. There was, what I discussed was, and also wrote down, is essentially there's a two-step process. One is you decide not to put the petition language on the ballot. And then you decide if you wish, of your own volition, to put a non-binding advisory-only ballot before the public, which would be in the form that I drafted. Those are two totally different things. You are informed if you were to do the non-binding referendum from what the petitioners have submitted, but you're not binding yourself by what they submitted. You're saying, I heard you. What you wrote is not something we want to put on the warrant or on a ballot, but here's a compromise by getting feedback from the public, because we drafted, you, or approved, I drafted it, you approved, an advisory-only referendum. They're two different things.
Okay.
And you can put whatever note you want in your own referendum.
We would start by voting against putting their question on the ballot, and then we would put
Something else.
our question on the ballot, which is an explanatory note, plus their question.
So I have a
but-
technical question. I know that the warrant is going to the printers, right? It's like by the end of the week. Since this would be a separate page, does it also need to be completed within the same time frame?
Oh,
So we
no, it
wouldn't have
doesn't.
another,
Well, not if it's non-binding advisory, we wouldn't have to print it
Right, that's.
through the ballot. Like
Right,
it wouldn't
that's
have to be a
what,
ballot
that's my question.
printed. Yeah.
So if we,
The thing is,
if we-
I don't think we
when
need to.
when we put out questions that we draft, we are committing, and luckily it won't be me, but we are committing to using that input to guide town decision-making. And I don't feel that that the select board is going to be prepared to act on that when there hasn't been information provided. I think it seeks to further confuse people, and especially seeks to further confuse the fact that what they're also voting on at the same time is going to be the budget, which includes a full-time police officer and all of these things. So I just think it's going to confuse people without the explanatory note that says, because people are like, oh, they want our opinion on this, so we're going to vote. But we have an obligation to say, this is what's
the
going on.
alternative is we acknowledge the fact that through the budget process, we have essentially made this a moot point because we are currently interviewing police chief applicants. The budget includes the staffing and maintaining the police as we know it. So the information that we're seeking to get is, how do people feel about the structure of law enforcement in Camden going forward, which is a really, really important conversation to have. And for us to presuppose that if this were binding, that we would not ever have to look at how we would restructure or, do policing differently in Camden is just naive, because that's not the way we live in a changing world, and things need to be subject to change. So to the extent that we can open up a discussion in the community about how policing is going to look going forward without either of these things being on the ballot. We can just choose to make that part of a discussion. There's so much around language that people don't understand. What do we mean when we say Knox County Sheriff's Department? What do we mean when we say chief of police? What do we mean when we say patrol officers? There's so much in this that has been dropped on the voters or on the population without a real understanding about how our system is even structured now. So we could just ignore this completely, but commit to a community conversation about policing going forward.
Shall we form a committee?
Yeah.
Reactivate the police advisory committee, or I'm fine with all of those things. I was trying to come up with something that would be a little closer to what was asked for.
I think it's
What's the
best.
Look, he
sense
does
of the
not tell me
board?
what I want to hear. You can all see that quite plainly.
Nope. No, I'm sorry on this one. Not really sorry. Just being polite, but I really think it's compelling if we decide not to put this on the ballot, that it once again says we are not allowing you, the voters, the citizens, to have a say and a definitive say. I think it's best for the police department as well to see that the town is in support of the local police force too. Any waffling that we do on, let's see how we're going to do our policing later and have discussions about it, you're telling people we're waffling about your jobs, and we don't know that it's a guaranteed thing going forward because we're going to talk about it and have a
There are
discussion.
no guarantees.
Well, like 4 of them,
that's-
we lose many people who choose not to work for us to go other places.
So
and
I
we end
think
up-
it is best if we go ahead, again, we had 500 or so people go ahead and state that they want this on the ballot. It's 500 or so people that understand what they signed and they want a voice in the matter. And I think we should give the people a voice in the matter. So this petition, I think, should go on the ballot.
I mean, there's questions that Bill drafted. Maybe we should read them out loud because I mean, when you think about it in terms of what everybody's trying to get who activated the petition. So number one, the town of Camden should maintain a full-service police department consistent with the traditional level of service provided to the town. Yes or no? That's got to get at some of what you all are trying to
It leaves too
right,
much,
then-
that leaves too much wiggle room because some
Well, so
people
no-
could
question
say
number
that the
two.
services, we can provide the services in another way with another agency.
So
is what it
that's
also-
that was question number one. There's also wiggle room in their petition language. So already when you start to point out this Rockport thing and all of that, people might say they might vote against it because of that. So both options are imperfect. And I can even see Stuart slightly nodding. So then question number two. The select board and town manager should consider the financial costs and benefits of using an outside law enforcement agency such as the Knox County Sheriff's Office to provide all or a portion of law enforcement services specifically designated for patrol within the town of Camden. Oh, I don't know how I would advise people. I mean,
That's worded
So-
in a way that it leans people natively towards a yes. I think it's
Does
kind
it?
of biased in the way it's asked.
so then three, the town should, but there are different
Just
things
let
people
me-
could weigh in on, they could answer differently on different ones. Three, the town should maintain its own independent police chief as an employee of town, probably the town, as either a full-time or part-time position. Please choose one response. And I anticipate that was an attempt to clarify some of the discussion we had
With
last time. And then there's this note about for the past 10 years, the towns of Camden and Rockport shared a single police chief under an interlocal agreement with each town paying the proportional cost of salary and benefits for a single chief of police independently appointed in each town. So I won't vote for putting it out just with their question, just as with no explanation. My first preference would probably be to put out their question with my explanatory note. We're getting a hard no from Bill. I would also vote in favor if there were a majority of the other select board members that wanted to put this out. I do think that would be probably preferable. It was after listening to us all go back and forth. So that's just I will vote with anybody that wants to do one of those things.
So we,
I don't know. I guess whatever anybody makes a motion for. So I think we'll have to vote down, up or down,
The
the
first
petition
motion,
as,
written. That's
and
right.
and then we go with
A different option.
a different option.
I mean, my challenge with the petition as written is that it does not inform the voters that this is non-binding. So,
Well, the point is, it is binding.
well, it's only binding to the extent that a select board chooses to follow this because it is not in the purview of the town it's in our,
Can we vote
Purview
on
to-
whether to put it
yes.
out as is? And so
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
close that cycle.
Right.
And then
okay. So we have a motion to put this language as stated on the ballot, and we have a second.
Correct.
All those in favor? Opposed? So,
And I would do that because without having some kind of explanation note, I don't feel like it's a useful question. I think that we should be able to give something that does honor
so would you
the
like to make a
intent.
motion?
And I mean, I think that the proposed advisory referendum comes pretty close. I mean, we can two people can spend 5 days wordsmithing something to death and come out, I mean, I would disagree. I think that number two is just should they consider the financial costs and benefits? That's a straightforward question, which question two asks about considering the financial costs and benefits. That's one of the recommendations of the budget committee, is to look at that and look at what makes most sense.
So can I have a motion?
Do we want to, is there a public input portion of this? Just
I
to-
think we've,
Well, I don't know. I don't want to do that after we vote.
I mean,
One question, okay, I should have gotten up here before you took that vote and everything. But I believe you are currently interviewing people for the position of police chief. And I would think that they would like to know that the town of Camden would like to have the same service that it's had in the past. And not, oh, well, in a year, we may go to the county sheriff's system and everything. Just saying that, not asking a question.
Anita.
None of this is binding, Pat. Even if it were binding, it's all.
I mean, yeah.
It's the year that people vote for it. So
Next year, the budget committee could say
select
three
board in the
people
future can do what, all
could
kinds of things.
reduce the police department by 3 people or increase it by 3 people, and we could have that conversation. I mean, that's not.
right.
I think if we did. go with
Anita.
the- okay.
Anita Brocious Scott. I must be missing something because when I'm looking over the version that Bill drafted, it's asking you to vote yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And they are mutually inconsistent. I mean, you can vote yes, 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 all the way down, or no, 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 or yes and no. And they don't really, somebody can vote different ways and give different advice within their own ballot. And is that what you want?
Well, yeah, because it
So-
tries to come, like, acknowledge some of the complexity.
Okay, so you can
Because
say,
you can say that we think that, from day one, the whole conversation has never been about reducing the level of service. But should we explore any cost savings of management? That was a part, and again, the budget committee had recommendations specifically to look forward this going forward. And so you can say that, yes, we should have a full police department. We should figure out where can we share. I mean,
you can vote yes on all of those things and it will be informative to you.
yeah,
Like if everybody voted yes on all of those things or no, or, I mean, any combination like that, it would still be informative and helpful to you.
yeah.
Okay, great.
To me, I think it would be better just to go with question number one with a note. Because that way, again, otherwise it's not a mutually exclusive vote as you go down through. Because again, if you said yes, 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 it still leaves us as clouded as we are now.
Right.
So I would prefer to go with what was written as part one.
So, or vote for
That's
one
it.
question only.
One question only.
Then you could say vote for one question only, and then you've got the
Or just,
choice.
just leave it as just number one and that's it. Boom.
Well, I like the choice, but I would say vote for one question only would be more informative to the select board.
And we're going to argue about
Yeah.
what's the traditional level of service
I
and
know.
what
I
is
mean,
full
that's-
service. And there is no perfect solution here. It's interesting to me, Stuart, that you must be a little bit conflicted too.
I
Because
guess sort of just to your, like, there are more than one issue there, even in the petition language, there's more than one specific issue. And so I think in order to sort of try and honor all the issues, that was why having several questions makes sense to me.
Well, and having listened and participated in the budget process, you understood what the budget committee was grappling with and understanding that it's a longer conversation.
I think it would be interesting too, if you had number three, because after telling people that we've been sharing a police chief, right? And to say, if a large number of people come back and say,
I want a full-time police chief. After hearing that we've had a part-time, that would be an indicator that people want more. You know, there are some things that could be valuable in that. And, you know, people, there are people in town that might say, oh, well, no, I actually don't think we need to keep the full-service police department that's consistent with the traditional level of service provided in town. I mean, that just what the spread is on that could be interesting. And 2 is a little confusing, but you know, it would also be interesting if everybody said, no, do not, you know, if a really huge group of people said, no, don't consider the costs and benefits, then, you know, like, wow, this is like the most important thing for people in Camden, no matter what it costs. I mean, I do think it serves a lot of the goals of the people that put the petition together, possibly more so than the actual language that they crafted, which could be criticized.
I wonder if.
Put a motion.
I move that we put Bill's
Non-binding
non-binding
referendum.
advisory questions
Forward to the voters.
forward to the voters.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that, but I was just going to ask the question, and I don't know if there's a legal reason to not do this, but to put something in this language that acknowledges that it's in response to the petition.
You can add whatever you want to this one.
To put something non-binding advisory only referendum. See, I can do anything.
Apparently, yeah, this is Chriso, when Chriso suggests stickers, Chriso suggests explanatory notes.
Because I've only been, it's only,
Because
it's
you're
the
a
first
man.
year. It's the first year.
All right, it's 10:15.
Yeah, but to say something that says, you know, that this came out of
In response to
a citizen's petition,
Mhm.
boom, something like that.
Be able to check all 4 of those, or
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to add a little thing that the budget already includes this.
So
But then we get a.
physically, how is this presented to the voters? Is this a separate sheet of
Separate piece of
paper?
paper.
As Bill stated, it's a separate piece of paper.
Well, that was.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This is better than nothing.
All those in favor?
This is better than nothing.
With a slight.
That's the spirit.
That's right.
Four-
That's what it is. Explaining my
4 in
vote.
favor? All those opposed? 4-1. Okay, so we will be seeing a non-binding
Can I
advisory.
ask a
Yes.
clarifying question?
Please. Oh.
So would you like Bill and I to write some introductory language saying this is in response to a citizen's petition
I think it
received
would
by
be
the town?
valuable.
Okay.
I think that's really all it needs.
Brief.
I think it would be valuable.
Yep.
Okay. We have the counter signature of the MSAD 28 budget validation referendum warrant. Thank you.
Now, this is our chance to really knock down that budget, guys. We vote against the school. Just kidding. Should not do that.
AI probably picked that up.
I move that we countersign the school, what is it, the school warrant?
SAD 28.
SAD
Budget
28 budget validation referendum warrant and notice of election.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Chris, are you in favor?
Sure.
Okay, 5-0 on that one.
I'm looking for the item in our packet, actually.
Way down there.
I don't see it.
It's like at the bottom.
There isn't any
Yeah, there's, like,
supporting
really
documentation
nothing.
about it.
Like,
Is
There
there?
isn't.
yeah, like we were just
Warrant
agreeing
and notice
to
of election
what
calling
we
main
don't
school.
have.
Okay.
Yeah,
there
we're
we go.
not, we're not actually approving the budget. It's the approving the vote of the.
Right.
Yeah, this is one of those things where they run you round and around and around about what you can do or not do.
Okay. Public comment on non-agenda items. Anybody have anything they'd like to add?
May I recommend that we move the public comment back to the beginning of the of our meetings?
That's what it says in the charter. We'll have. It actually does.
That's the first item on the agenda?
It's at it's the beginning of the meeting.
Oh,
Paraphrasing a little bit, but at the beginning of the meeting.
sounds like a great discussion item for the next select board.
Just a thing.
Valid point.
Yeah, it's.
If that's where it should be, that's where it should be.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, third.
All those in favor?
Thank you, Bill.
All those in favor. Did you vote, Chris?
did.
Make sure we get this.